What is going on, everybody? We are the Cinefanatics. My name's Robert Adams.
I'm Chris Adams.
And this is the Marquee. We will be tier ranking Nicolas Cage movies. Joining us tonight, we do have Mr. Maxwell Haddad. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing okay.
Awesome. Where's your love for Nic Cage come from?
My mom always had Moonstruck on a lot when I was growing up. And even then, when I was very young, I was like, this guy is magnetic and has a wooden hand, and I like him. And I don't know, after that, I just would always watch movies he was in and enjoyed his work, and yeah.
Okay. And also joining us tonight, we have Lego. How are you doing, Lego?
I'm doing fantastic. Or one might say, Cage-tastic.
Cage-tastic.
Hey, there it is.
Where's your love for Nicolas Cage come from? Because you've been like all over Twitter lately with all your Nicolas Cage watching.
Yeah, as a kid, I saw Vampires Kiss, and it was just all over. And then this year, Letterboxd told me I watched too many Nic Cage movies last year, so I made it my mission to watch more this year.
That's legit.
If you're going to complain about it, I'm just going to watch all of them.
Exactly.
Just knock them all out. Chris.
Yes.
Why do you like Nic Cage?
He is an actor's actor. Are you kidding? Have you seen his performances? The man is a thespian among thespians. He's just fun to watch, honestly. He puts his all into it every single time. And if you don't enjoy watching Nicolas Cage, just get out. Just get out.
Honestly. Well, no, stay here. We need you to watch this. But if after this is over, if you don't like Nicolas Cage, you can get out.
Yeah.
Very well done. Yeah, I just like how bonkers he is. Like being able to see him go like full Nic Cage, but still turn in like really good performances. And I know like that may all be in the same movie happening like one right after another. Crazy Nic Cage, serious good performer. Crazy Nic Cage, serious good performer. I love the fact that his range goes like that. Or like a movie, he would be playing completely straight until all of a sudden there's that one bonker scene looking at you, Matchstick Men, out of nowhere, just all of a sudden full blown piss blood type of thing. Like I can't do it. I could do a Nic Cage impression, but I can't do that one. So, anyways, that's what I like about him. Just so good at all of that. What's the one that he does in Vampire's Kiss where he says the alphabet A, B, C, D, E, F, G? Yeah, he does that.
That he does.
Are any of y'all good at Nicolas Cage impressions?
We can all try.
No.
These two are like, no. Don't throw us under that bus.
He's from Long Beach. That accent makes no sense.
What's the accent from? Like, I have no idea where his voice actually comes from.
I feel like I would start trying to do a Nicolas Cage impression, and halfway through it would end up as a Mark Wahlberg impression, and I don't want any part of that.
No. Not the bees.
They both do talk about bees in different terrible movies.
So you wanted me to do a Nicolas Cage impression?
Sure, do one real quick.
Well, tonight we're ranking Nicolas fucking Woo Cage.
I heard him from on the side of the apartment.
That just sounded like you screaming his name.
That's
it. That's what it was.
Anyways, nice mug, Chris. Anyways, those of y'all joining us, thank y'all for being here in the chat. I do see Commentating Nerd, Jeremy Miller, William Harold, Garth. I see Maxwell's in the chat too. Cool. Mike Deacon, thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for joining us on this. If you have any questions, comments, issues, you want to make sure we see your opinion, streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Great place to grab our attention. Also, patreon.com/cinefanatics. If you're able to, feel free to hop on a tier and support us because we would like to grow this darn thing. Anyways, if there aren't any other questions, I would say let's bring out Carl and get to the Marquee. Take it away, Carl. That Worked perfectly. Anyways, here is the Marquee board. Basically, those of y'all that are not familiar with how this show works, this is a tier ranking show. Marquee board is going to be where all the films are going to be going. Our rules tonight, we have 19 Nicolas Cage films that we're going to be ranking on this board. S tier, we are limiting to, what do we say? Say 4?
Yep.
S tier here and 3 in all the other tiers. So say the best Nic Cage, the S. Say the best for the S. And let me see.
You are glitching
Jake
out for
hasn't
me
been here
really
for a while.
rough. I don't know if that's just me or if that's on your end, but you are glitching out hard for me.
Yeah.
I am.
Might need to drop you out and bring you back in.
Oh, I thought that was just my edible. Okay, phew.
So I can go, but I'm gonna end up taking the Marquee with me.
No, I mean remove yourself and then put yourself back in. See if that
Like
works.
that. Okay. Yeah. Well, I also see that there's something about an echo. I'm popping headphones just to make sure it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
it's
end.
still.
It's more like
Yep.
double talk, like Max
Yeah.
Syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technical difficulties. We are live on TV.
That works. Anyway, so 4 is tier 3 and all the other tiers. And yeah, everyone in the chat, free to give us your opinion as well. Is that working?
No.
I will give my opinions.
Chris, you host the show.
Hey guys, welcome to the Marquee. Where
Ooh, that sounds like a down in the Florida Keys. Like we're gonna go have like a mojito and party in the Marquee.
oh my god, how I would love that.
Yeah, let's all meet like a year from now on Marquee. We'll bring Hemingway's cats. It'll be amazing. I'm done. I'm sorry.
I don't know if that's gonna work for you. If this is gonna work.
Like I might have to remove myself completely and come back in.
Yep, we're gonna have to full on remove and come back in.
Am I glitching? Is it still messing up?
Yep.
Yes. Thanks for bearing with us here, folks. This is riveting entertainment.
Okay. Well, let me.
Ooh,
Yep, you guys are gonna see the format.
Demi, I love you, Demi. Hi, Demi.
Demi! Demi! All right. Well,
So how y'all doing?
doing well. We're doing okay here. It's just we can edit and post.
The only problem with that, and this is a fundamental problem, is we're live.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say something. I'm giving up on you.
Something I'm giving up. I hope that actually worked, or is this isn't any better?
No.
Okay. One last thing. Let me try.
Tonight's Marquee is sponsored by Street Yard, where you play a video and all of a sudden your entire thing falls to shit.
Oh my God! Put $1 in the jar, Chris. This is a family channel.
It was not much anymore, but
Keep talking.
I am still talking while sharing and moving and doing all stuff, and I don't know if it's working.
I don't think it's an internet thing. I think it's audio. Maybe you should. Can you drop your audio?
Can you try and
Yeah.
Are you using your AirPods as a mic?
I'm willing to bet that they're probably doing that. Give me
Maybe
one
disconnect
second.
from Bluetooth and reconnect. I think it's a Bluetooth issue, maybe.
Troubleshooting. Hey.
We're taking Dwayne's content for a little bit.
About that.
Troubleshoot tech issue.
How's that sounding? Is that a little bit better?
I mean,
You're not glitching.
but
The audio quality is weird, but it'll do.
Now I can't hear you.
I feel like I should start like doing a crisp 5 minutes of material. Just pass the time. Jake Iacovetta's in the chat. What's the deal with that hat? But
No, justice for Jake.
He knows what he did.
Probably.
Okay. So this is working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound as clean.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will go with this for right
Thanks
now.
for calling in today, Robert.
Yeah.
You sound like you're calling into a radio show.
Yep.
Hi, my name's Robert Adams, longtime listener, first time caller. I was
Is
wanting to know, could y'all rate some Nic Cage tonight? That'd be great.
Is your mic plugged in?
Yeah. Yeah, it was plugged in, everything.
Is it on in the settings for the StreamYard?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. All right then. Well, there we go. Anyways, guys, technical difficulties aside, this is the Marquee. Usually things have run smoother than this, but this is where we're at. You know, we're ranking Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage gets kind of crazy, gets kind of zany at times, so this just feels like par for the course.
So I'm going to go ahead and say this is getting the first point for a meter I will be keeping. Nope, I need a different pen. Hold up, keep talking. We're okay. Need a darker pen.
How's this working? Does this sound a little bit better?
Oh, that's perfect.
That's better?
Yeah.
Much better?
Yep.
Okay. Does that sound like I can host a show like this? That works good for
I feel like that's perfect.
Okay.
So the technical difficulties gets today's first Chaos point. I will be keeping tabs throughout the show. We'll see how many we get when all is said and done.
That's
Very nice.
Perfect.
Excellent.
You know what? This is the last time I trust Carl with anything. He's trying to sabotage us, isn't he? Carl.
Yeah, that's so Carl's fault. Anyways,
pay.
so again, I see everyone in the chat. Thank y'all for being here. Streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. Let's get to this. First movie we are going to talk about is Raising Arizona.
Ooh.
Let's go and start with Maxwell.
Oh boy. Okay, so do I start by saying what tier I think it should go in and why?
Or how do you feel about this movie, and then what tier would you want to put it in?
Okay, Raising Arizona is like a hilarious cult classic. I think it shows off his very specific late 80s energy when he was really cultivating his broad persona and what he could do, which at times is sort of at odds with the Coen brothers, who tend to be a lot more meticulous and deliberate with their filmmaking. But regardless of that, I think it's a really, really fun, zany movie that has endured really well over time. In terms of sheer comedy, I think it's one of the funniest movies that Coen's ever made, and it is really top-notch Nic Cage-ness.
Yeah. Where would you want to put it at?
I would probably put it in A.
Okay. Okay. So A, Lego. What are your thoughts and feelings on it?
Very similar to Maxwell's. This is like very, very late 80s Nicolas Cage. One of the rare movies where he's in a comedy. It is Coen Brothers, so it's great. I think this was only maybe like their second feature film. And right out the gate, they were coming in hot. Like they knew exactly what they wanted to do and made that film. And I don't know if it is considered a cult classic, but it's definitely beloved by people who have seen it. I don't really have any negative thing to say about it. All positives across the board. Holly Hunter is phenomenal in it. I would definitely put it, my heart says S tier, but I'll agree with Maxwell and go A tier as well.
Okay. All right. And Chris?
Raising Arizona. So for this one, this is a first time watch for me just recently. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't something that like stood out for me as far as like a movie that I particularly like really, really enjoyed. It's kind of one of those, it was there for me. It existed. It definitely felt like a Coen Brothers movie too, which I actually did like about it. I think it definitely it definitely had that feel, had that Coen Brothers feel, their style of humor. For me, it was a really interesting one too, because even though it's been out for forever, I had no idea where this story was going. I was like, we're supposed to like these people because there are protagonists, but also they're stealing a baby. I don't know how I feel about what am I supposed to want to happen here. I don't know. That part kind of kept me engrossed with it. I was like, I don't know what I want to happen here, honestly. But for the most part, like it was on the better side of just fine for me. So it's not one that I'm like gonna be like wanting to watch time and time again, but I do see and I do understand why people like it. For me, it probably is in that C tier range, but that's just my take on it. I understand why people want to put it higher though.
Chris, you're going to make us lose our guests in the very first movie.
I have opinions.
Okay, so you were saying that you'd go probably C. I'm probably going to agree with like Maxwell and Lego here, probably like in the A range for me. The thing with Coen Brothers movies that I've seen, typically the first time I watch it, I'm like, and then I need to give it a second try, and then usually what has ended up happening is I just really like the movie. Or in the case of like Big Lebowski, absolutely love it. But like No Country for Old Men, had to watch it again. Raising Arizona, had to watch it again. So yeah, I definitely see the love for it, but yeah, you can definitely tell it's like early Coens, so not quite like rapid fire like say Big Lebowski is. They perfected that comedy between those movies. But yeah, I would agree with A. So that seems to be like 3A, 1C. This is probably going to stay like in the A range, I believe. So
math. So if you got 3 and you have the 1 down here and then you try to divide. Yeah.
It may be like on the lower end of A. There might be some movies that we're going to place above it. So
yeah. So the thing to keep in mind again, as well, is that we're going to end up putting 4 in S and then 3 in each tier underneath S. So there is a chance that while we are ranking Raising Arizona in A right now, it might end up lower depending on where we rank other movies. Mm-hmm. That might come up.
Yeah. And then keep in mind, like I said, we're only ranking 19, so we're not ranking all of them. So there's going to be a couple that we're not going to get to, like 8mm, Color Out of Space.
Yeah.
Just some of these, unfortunately, we can't do all of them. So
there are 2 in particular I'm upset are not included, but we can get to that later.
Yeah, we could cover like at the end of this, we could cover real quick like what other movies that you really like and where you would throw them. But
if it's next to knowing, I'm kicking you out right now.
Anyways, moving on to the next one. Speaking of Maxwell's childhood, Moonstruck. Snap out of it. Let's start with Lego this time. Lego, how do you feel about this movie?
I absolutely love Moonstruck. It is phenomenal. Olivia Dukakis is just completely wonderful. Cher is always brilliant because she's Cher. When she and Nicolas Cage are in that like passionate relationship in juxtaposition to the one that's just kind of available to her, kind of humdrummy, it's whatever, he proposed, why not? Oh, and she's in bed with him going, take your revenge out on me. I know everyone likes to quote the snap out of it, but I like that better. Oh, it's a wonderful film. And I really like that the film itself, like the relationships, they're not pretty. Usually it's a rom-com. Usually everybody's lives are very perfect and the only thing that's absent is like a relationship. But these people, like, they're messy. They're so messy and it's wonderful. I definitely would put this in S tier for sure. And rant concluded.
Chris?
You gotta go with me next. Okay. So I want to make something very clear real quick. For me, the good movies are S through C tier. D and F are the ones that I'm not as thrilled about.
Oh.
I say that
here it goes.
because we're doing a good job of hitting all my C movies first.
Jesus, why are you on here?
I like the movie. It's just not as good as the other movies to me. I didn't have as much enjoyment with it. I'm trying very hard not to offend our fair guests here, but at the same time, this is not. I enjoyed it. It's a good story. It's a good movie. The performances are fantastic, but it's not as. It wasn't as gripping for me as some of the other movies. Whether I enjoyed the action in some of the other ones or the story in some of the other ones and how they played it out. This one, the story was good. I think Cher and Nicolas Cage did have great chemistry together. But for me as a whole, the movie as a whole just didn't connect with me as much, at least not until like the last 5 minutes. I think the last 5 minutes is where I actually was like, okay, I actually really enjoy this movie. What they did there in the last 5 minutes, like, I don't want to spoil it because I know there are probably a lot of people out there who haven't seen it still. But it just, if it takes me to the last 5 minutes, I think to get to what I enjoy about the movie, I think Maxwell's gonna kill me.
I was just wondering if I want to get up and go get a drink or not.
Yeah, it's C tier for me. Go ahead, Maxwell.
Oh, I'm next.
I mean, I'm probably just gonna put it in B tier. I thought it was a good, like, romantic comedy movie. Unfortunately, I don't have like any real Italian connections, so a lot of the Italian in there kind of just goes over my head. But I definitely recognize it and appreciate it for what it is. I do agree. I love Olympia Dukakis in this, and yeah, the Cher Nic Cage chemistry is pretty good. Even though he was like in his early 20s and she was like 40 when they did this. So yeah, there was a huge age difference there, but
I would have never been able to tell just by looking at them.
No, I had to remind myself while watching it. I was like, wait a minute, there's like what is that? Like almost a 20-year, like 17-year gap, I think, is between them. So yeah, he was 23, she was 40.
Cher does not age. The slander here.
That is correct.
No, she doesn't. But yeah, it's amazing. Anyways, yeah, I would say B tier. I thought it was a good romance movie. Tear it apart, Maxwell, or tear us apart.
For me, this is one of the great movies of the 80s and one of the all-time best romantic comedies. It is great because it is idiosyncratic. It doesn't follow the rule book. It doesn't follow the typical beats. It is deeply, deeply Italian. And although I'm not Italian, the specificity of that family still resonated with my cultural Judaism and the way my large family behaves. Nicolas Cage is like raw sexual energy and rage in this movie. He is a wolf, and Cher will go to bed with him. And guess what? She does. This movie has a voice. It has heart. It has everything you can want in a romantic comedy. And knowing now that 4 are going to be an S tier, and I want to give myself a Cage Oz point, I'm saying S for this, so we can split the difference on the math.
Okay.
Wow, very different opinions.
Yeah.
I will say one last thing. This is one of those times where I agree and fully understand why it won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. The writing in this is as sharp as it gets for this type of movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I would definitely probably say like it's definitely going to be a higher A than Raising Arizona. But I could see an argument for it being made to go into S. Keep in mind when we're done with this as well, before we call it a night, we do have one final move around. So compared to where everything else lands, if we still believe that, like, say, Moonstruck is more deserving of that S than anything else, or like other movies that we had available, we could move it up there. I'm going to put it high A for right now, though. Just as the average of all of us.
But he lost his hand. He lost his bride.
Yeah,
of course he did. It's like that's cinema to me. He lost his hand and his bride.
And the scene where he's doing that was owed to the doctor from Metropolis, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Also, everyone should watch Metropolis.
Yes, Fritz Lang.
I need to watch that still. Is it like 4 hours long?
No.
Something like that?
No.
Oh, I thought
Maybe
it was.
like 2, but yeah.
Anyways, next movie. We're just knocking all these out early while we can. Leaving Las Vegas.
Oh, thank God! Finally, something that isn't to see for me.
Chris, we'll start with you since you decided to speak up. Also, because you're next in the order.
Put it in the F tier. No, that's not because it isn't a well-made movie. It is actually a very well-made movie, but that story just... Oh, my God. It's a rough watch. It is a hard movie to get through. Their performances are actually fantastic. I believe Nicolas Cage won the Oscar for this, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can see why. You can understand why. But as far as, like, the story goes... This is why we have like us. This is why we have guests. So you get all different flavors. For me, the flavor is I am not on the depresso espresso, and I do not want any part of. I don't want any part of like being brought down by a story. I love movies that leave me feeling a little bit lighter at the end. There are some movies that I can give a pass to, but for the most part, there was nothing in this movie that left me going, I'm glad I watched that, other than acknowledging that Nicolas Cage put in a hell of a performance in this movie. But for me, this one goes down the F tier. It's just such a hard watch.
Yeah. So I agree with some of that. This is definitely a hard watch. Luckily, I had already seen Requiem for a Dream, which I feel like is like one of the pinnacles of this type of movie. So this one's not as bad as Requiem for a Dream as far as like just how hard of a watch it is. But it's a really good movie. It was very well done, very well made, very well acted. Everything about it was phenomenal. Even reading the history, the story, the book that this was adapted from, the author killed himself like right after signing away the film rights to the book. So the director decided to push forward and make this movie as like an homage to the author of the story. It's really good, really well acted. I kind of agree with Chris though, is the story is just not for me. I'm glad I've watched it. I'm glad I've seen it, but I'm probably not going to watch it again. This isn't like hey, I'm in the mood for Leaving Las Vegas right after that Requiem for a Dream. So like, no, this isn't entertaining. This was a good movie to see this lifestyle, but
for a kicker, I'm going to also check out House of Sand and Fog.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
I mean, I feel like I have to rank it. I would probably put it as a B because I am going to acknowledge it is a very well done movie, but not entertaining or repeat viewingable. So that's where I would probably put it. Maxwell?
I'm a little conflicted now because a couple reasons. So I always respect Chris, especially how unabashedly yourself you are in your opinions. I think a lot of film people will, just say that the movies that are regarded as great are great, even if they don't feel it or not. And you've always been clear about your perspective on that. You like happy, uplifting things. So this is very much not a Chris movie. Yep. For me, I am a little bit closer to Robert. I think it's a beautifully made film. And I think there is so much merit in watching tough stories, especially ones about alcoholism and disease and addiction that are portrayed with the relative level of integrity that this movie has, because it becomes a learning experience. You can, see other experiences that are not your own through fiction. And then feeling and emotion can be brought to it. But I do and have always had some issues with this movie. I think sometimes its showiness gets a little in the way of its point, and it is very dreary, which does weigh on you. And based on all the other movies, I think B is a good place for this.
Okay.
Fair.
And Lego?
I kind of agree with basically what's been said. When I was trying to think of how to articulate my feelings, the word that really comes up for how I feel about this film is brutal. This movie is just very brutal. It's a very honest real unpleasant look at addiction. There's a scene in which Nic Cage very brokenly says, "I'm sorry," and then immediately comes to a decision that carries the rest of the film. It's a pretty brief scene, but it's pivotal, and it is so well acted and just crushing to watch. My big issue is I probably will use this about a lot of the films that we're talking about today, and that I feel it's kind of, I don't understand the female's character's purpose in this movie, or I find it her purpose is just to serve the male character, and I cannot ever get over that. That bothers me so much in any film that I see that happening in, and I see that in a lot of these movies we're talking about today. I think the movie needed a little more for her character, and to do a little more in service of her rather than just her servicing him. And I do mean that as a double entendre.
Wow.
So yeah, I do inevitably will say it's a phenomenally made film, but it could have been better. And I ultimately would agree with a B tier ranking of it.
Okay. So general everyone pretty much agrees that we should put this like in B. I know Chris was still saying F, but hearing those viewpoints, Chris, you kind of agree. It's a well-made movie. It's just not your movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it falls down to. That's why I love like the fact that we have multiple people on here and can all like talk about a movie from different viewpoints. You know, I think I'm gonna hit like a large swath of people who are just like, yeah, I just want to go in and enjoy the movie, kind of an experience. And I think Maxwell's did a very good job articulating, you know, why the movie is deserving of as much praise and accolade as it has.
Yeah. I do see a lot of people in the chat are also saying B.
B for brutal.
B for brutal. Jimmy Nails here. God, that movie's rough, though. It's in the glad I watched it one time, never again category. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, this is one of those movies I'm glad I have seen it. It's off my list of movies I need to watch in my life. Probably never watching it again. So, that being said, let's move on to something a little more fun. And I'm glad that I see PLD in the chat, because he's going to rip us a new one if this doesn't go into one specific tier. This would be The Rock. Who did we start with last time? Chris? So we'll start with me. I'm more knowledgeable of this movie than PLD is.
Oh boy.
No, he's pretty knowledgeable of this movie. Like, I'm actually really impressed with his knowledge of it. This is a fun movie. I love this movie. I just absolutely like everything about this movie. As cheesy as it is in some places, the acting, as cheesy as that is at some points, it fits so well. Like, the chemistry between the three actors on here, even though we don't see a whole lot between Ed Harrison, Nicolas Cage, and Sean Connery. There's not a whole lot of interaction there. I do like the three of them all together in that. And I definitely like Nicolas Cage's and Sean Connery's chemistry together. And then all the other people in this movie. This movie's like a treasure trove of just actors kind of like in that beginning of their career type of situation. A lot of them that were just well known for like major roles already, and then some who were still making their break at that time. I love this movie. This is probably like top Michael Bay for me. This would probably get my S tier vote. So, Maxwell.
This movie is perfect. I love it when a movie knows exactly what it wants to be and it nails that. And not every movie sets out to achieve the same goals, and The Rock achieves its goals with like pomp and circumstance, and it's just like iconic action movie shit. Like, this is the 90s action movie in one movie. Like you said, the ensemble is as deep as it gets. The score is amazing. Nic Cage is hammy and wonderful. Sean, it's an S tier for me, for sure.
Yeah. Lego.
Oh no, PLD's gonna hate me. So I love 90s action schlock, and Nic Cage definitely has quite a few of them. I think this one is the bottom of them for me. Definitely my favorite Michael Bay movie, and I love this movie. I actually totally agree with what Hummel was doing. It is amazing that you have people like Tony Todd and David Morse and Michael Biehn in this movie, and they are so forgotten because of what Ed Harris, Sean Connery, and Nic Cage were doing. The movie makes sense and is absolutely simultaneously completely ridiculous. As Maxwell said, it did what it set out to do. It's very fun. I, however, would put it behind Raising Arizona in the A tier.
Okay. So we'll say that this is probably going to be a low S for right now.
Sure.
Chris didn't go yet.
Oh, Chris didn't go? Chris, you're going to put it in S.
Am I going to put it in S? Do you think I'm going to put it in S?
I think you're going to put it in S, but where do you want to put it?
I'm going to agree with Lego. It goes in A for me. The thing about, for me, I'll just spoil kind of where I put some stuff. The A tier is my Nicolas Cage 90s action tier. For me, that's where The Rock fits perfectly fine. There's other movies that are on this list that again, talking about like how a movie connects with me specifically, I think The Rock is fantastic in terms of action. I think it is, like Maxwell was saying, it knows exactly what it is, and it does a fantastic job at it. But there's still something that I don't even know why I'm like trying to come from a different angle here. A tier is still a good tier, y'all. It's still really good to be in the A tier. So here's the thing. For me, it is definitely an A tier. I'm not even going to try to like say anything like negative about the movie. I just kind of agree with everything Lego just said. It fits firmly in the A tier for me.
You're not going to say anything negative because you want PLD to give you matches in the FCL this season. So that would definitely help. So I'm thinking probably there on the high end. So we got 2 people saying A, 2 people saying S. So high end of A for right now.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna shift things around at the end too, so we'll see where things end up.
All right. Well, let's continue to stick with 90s Nic Cage action. Well, wait, real quick from The Rock. What's your favorite? Just real quick through this. What's your favorite quote from the movie?
We all know what it is.
I like the "How in Zeus's butthole did you get out of yourself?" Maxwell.
That one works, sure.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Chris.
I like that. I like the prom queen quote just because of actually I like it mostly because of Nic Cage's response to him. We always hear that quote stopping at Sean Connery, but it's what Nic Cage says back to him next.
Oh yeah, his fiance was the prom.
The prom queen. Yeah, I was like,
and then
that's
Sean
the man
Connery's
right there.
Was she? That's
the
great.
man right there. He's like, my woman was the prom queen. What are you talking about?
Nice. Another quotable 90s Nic Cage action. Con Air. Also a pretty good soundtrack on that. Maxwell, let's start with you.
Yeah, Con Air is a pretty enjoyable 90s Nic Cage movie. It's really cheesy. I don't love his accent. I don't like a lot of the supporting characters. I think they have aged poorly with slightly insensitive portrayals for some of their mental illnesses. Obviously, the 90s was a different time, but that does bug me when I go to rewatch it now. But it's a really fun movie. It's a great concept. Con Air as a concept for movie is fun. I would solidly put it in B.
Okay. Lego?
Yeah, that accent was a choice. That he seems like he really likes doing a Southern accents, and I appreciate him understanding that that's probably the best accent he could do. He's never tried to pull a Keanu in Dracula, so Thank goodness for that. It's again fun 90s schlocky action film. I think Steve Buscemi's character really stole the show for me. It's dumb fun. I agree that it would go in B tier. I really like the team up though of Nic Cage and John Cusack. They were in a movie later on, many years later on, together as well. But that was not as fun as this one. But yeah, it's just who doesn't? I love the bunny. Who doesn't love the bunny?
Why couldn't you just put the
it's
bunny
adorable.
in the box?
It's adorable. He played like Nicolas Cage. When you go through his filmography, really only plays like 2 different characters, and him being someone who's just gotten out of jail, trying to reconnect with his love interest, is my favorite one.
Yeah.
So yeah, B tier.
B tier. Chris?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like I said, that A tier was the 90s Nic Cage action tier. For me, this one ends up at the bottom of the A tier. So I understand like top B tier, bottom A tier kind of range is perfectly fine with me. It's got some really solid performances in it, despite that accent. Why couldn't you put the bunny back in the box? Yeah, that one was definitely rough, as everyone else is saying. But I like Cyrus the Virus. I really liked in this movie John Malkovich. Why was I blanking on his name just now? Good lord. John Malkovich's villain in this movie was a ton of fun. That dude puts on a performance every time. He just goes to town with those roles. But yeah, for me, like there was a lot to love about it, but it was very like very corny action movie, which you get what you're paying for here, and it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly acceptable, but it only goes so far, and then that it doesn't go any further. So for me, it is definitely like the bottom of the A tier.
I really love this movie as far as like the 90s. This is one of those like prime examples of a good 90s corny popcorn action flick like The Rock. I do like The Rock a little bit more than Con Air though. So I would want to stick this like under The Rock. Yeah, I could see the argument for this going like maybe high B tier. I would actually, so like I'm okay with putting this in B tier. I'd probably put it above Leaving Las Vegas, even though again, Leaving Las Vegas is a very well made movie. Con Air is just more fun.
Yeah.
So everyone's good with that. We'll look at the chat real quick too, because put the movie back in the box of S tier. Everyone's quoting the bunny. Garth is like one of his mini Las Vegas movies. PLD, what do I have to do to get The Rock in S tier? That's great. And then of course, Miles O'Brien is great in this S tier masterpiece. Yeah, I love Colm Meaney's character in Con Air.
No, I hate him.
He's such an asshole.
Just a complete and utter. Yeah, I hate him so much.
I just want to say it's important to remember that there's a finite number of movies that get to go in each slot, chat. And so far you're saying everything is S tier, and there's a lot of great movies we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of yet. So
yeah.
Yep.
Which also justifies some of my upcoming choices. And B is still a really good movie, guys. We're not shitting on these B movies at all. I mean, we're saying we have issues with them, but let's,
I'm looking, there's like, oh man, there's like at least three other movies, maybe 4 that I would throw a S tier at. So
yep,
there's still some good ones down here. So next one, still staying in the same realm of quotable 90s Nic Cage movies, the ever classic Face Off. See, we started with Maxwell last time. Let's go with Lego.
Oh, this movie is just the most ridiculous thing, and I believe it's very purposefully ridiculous. Like in my mind, in the writer's room, someone had to say, "Wouldn't it make more sense?" And then someone dead stopped them and said, "No, this is not about sense.
You
This is
shut
not
up.
about logic. This is about face." And then someone else said, like the bald henchman, "No more drugs for that man." And they wrote that into the movie. It's just so ridiculous. only works because it's Nic Cage and John Travolta. It absolutely is. It does not work in any way, shape, or form without those two actors. It's interesting that everyone remembers Nic Cage as Castor Troy when really he spent most of the movie playing Sean Archer, and it's ridiculous that Castor Troy pretending to be Sean Archer was just a significantly better husband and father to like the family, and then in the end is just insane. It has, I think, the longest chase fight scene I've ever witnessed in a film. The best use of a title drop in a movie ever. I will die on that hill. No movie's title drop is as good as that, or ever will be, or ever has a chance to be. This is the most 90s film ever made. It is so fun. I don't consider it S tier, but I would put it above The Rock. So it gets a little messy when you start to rank things now.
Yeah.
I hate ranking things.
Welcome to the Marquee, Maxwell.
But yes, Face Off, Cocaine, the movie.
Chris, go ahead.
This is a D tier for me. I did not like Face Off. It was too far left field for me. It was like, okay, no one's making any sense here. None of their choices make any sense. What's happening? None of the science. I get suspension disbelief. I understand that completely. Like, suspend your disbelief, and I did. I definitely did. But for me, I was like, okay, but no, but also no, but no, that doesn't work either. I can see a lot of people loving Face Off. I get it because of the schlocky 90s action side of it. I understand. It did not work for me. It's just too, I don't know how to specifically describe it. It was just too much left field. If that makes any sense, it was just too much left field for me. It was like, I'm not buying what's being sold here. That being said, we do have classic Cage in this movie. And while we are ranking these more in terms of the movie itself and not necessarily Nicolas Cage's performance, it is worth something. So for me, it's a D, but I understand if it ends up higher, in part due to that reason.
Okay. I've seen this movie like multiple times, and just every time I watch this movie, at some point, like during it, I'm like, this is just dragging with this concept. Like, we're doing everything possible. Just like, I feel like it kind of that the gimmick of the face swapping just kind of wears out after like an hour or so. And I was like, okay, like I feel like it's not getting to like the action to suspend me paying attention to it. So while I do appreciate it as a good 90s movie, it's not on my highest. I probably would do like a high C, low B on this. So, Maxwell.
I like to think that some studio executive watched The Killer and Hard Boiled and said, let's give John Woo $80 million and Nic Cage. And it's a pretty good idea. I'm kind of in the middle of everyone. To me, this is a little bit above Con Air. It is, I think, undeniably too long. John Woo goes full John Woo to the point where it's almost like he's parroting his own Hong Kong action films. But it is incredibly fun. The action scenes are great. John Woo knows how to direct action. Even in his worst movies, the action scenes are well done. And the two of them are a blast together. So I put it in B tier.
I wonder if that's my problem. I wonder if it is just, I feel like it's too long. I feel like maybe if it was shorter, maybe I would enjoy it more. I wonder if
that kind of would feed into what I'm saying too. Is that it's just kind of drawn out in the middle there. So you were saying B.
Yeah, and I would put it above Con Air for me personally.
Lego, where were you saying?
Well, I was saying A, but I could agree that it goes above Con Air and B.
Okay, and then Chris was saying D. Yeah, so it definitely sounds like it's probably going to be in B. You want to put it above Con Air?
For me, yes. I think Lego agrees.
Yeah. I'd also like to throw out, while Nic Cage has done some interesting performances, Nic Cage has never done The Fanatic. So I feel like Travolta just gets too much credit.
That's true.
Yeah.
Nic Cage has never not given it his all, even if the movie is garbage. And John Travolta has slept walk and phoned in tons of movies. Not even a comparison between the two in my mind.
Okay. So I'll put it above Con Air. We can reevaluate potentially, maybe, in a bit. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, A and B are full.
Yep.
We're not ready to like pull the trigger in one definite direction or the other yet. So, next one. Okay. So next one here is City of Angels. Let's see. Who did we start with last time?
Lego.
So Chris, kick us
This
off
is
with City
another-
of Angels.
This is another one of my D tiers. It has moments in it that are actually quite enjoyable. I like. Is it Dennis Franz?
Yeah.
I like.
Dennis Franz.
I like his character. I like what he was doing. I like his interactions with Nicolas Cage's character in here. I do like some of the chemistry between him and Meg Ryan. But for the most part, I think it's not until, this is another one of those movies where it's not until like the last 20 or so minutes, 25, 30 minutes of the movie where I'm like, okay, this is getting to somewhere that I am kind of enjoying. The rest of it was a lot of, the rest of it is kind of a lot of him just like meandering and kind of watching and waiting. And there wasn't a whole lot of like, all right, are we progressing something here? What are we doing? What's going on? It's a very understated Nicolas Cage performance, but I don't know. It's just one that didn't like really grab me, and I think it does get bonus points for the soundtrack, and others here can probably talk to that a little bit more. But outside of that, for me, I feel pretty D on this.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a beautiful movie. I like the way it's shot, the way it looks.
Mm-hmm.
The shot of like all the angels standing on the beach during sunrise is gorgeous, absolutely amazing. I do agree. The part with Dennis Franz is the best part, easily.
Yeah.
Like that's the most fun I have in this entire movie, was watching their interactions on there. I guess like the relationship between him and her, I feel, is a little weird. Only that when they first meet, he sounds like a complete crazy bonkers guy, and she's like, "Oh, okay." Like it seems a little weird and off. But the ending, again, no, I'm not gonna spoil it. But the ending is just like that's just not where I would want this movie to go. And I get why they did it the way they did it, but
Yeah.
But kind of like agreeing with Chris, it's a whole lot of them just wandering around, watching and whatnot. But the soundtrack is a banger on this. Like, this is one of the most quintessential '90s soundtracks. Just for like the three main songs off that soundtrack alone: the Sarah McLachlan "Angel," Alanis Morissette's "Uninvited," and of course Goo Goo Dolls' "Iris." Fantastic soundtrack on this movie. I would probably put this in C.
Oh,
I mean, it's watchable. I might watch it again
Higher.
at some point, maybe, but
Okay.
Maxwell.
Keeping in mind we do have to fill every tier, I'm going F for this one. I think it's really manipulative. It's a stupid remake of Wings of Desire. I think there's some really icky subtext in the way Meg Ryan's character serves Nicolas Cage's character. There's some weird misogyny that makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't like this movie. I struggle, to be fair, with anything dealing with angels because I'm a deeply unreligious person. So none of this worked for me. Like, I'm able to give over to it if I find it sincere, but I find this to be like when they say Hollywood took something that worked well and Hollywoodized it and made it bullshit. Like, this is a really good example of that for me. So I'm going to go with F.
Yeah.
Okay. Lego.
I kind of agree with basically what's been said. Once again, the soundtrack absolutely eclipses the film itself. It's very somber. I do like the performances of the actors in their roles, but I don't necessarily think that the film is all that. The story it's telling is great. I believe I am on record in saying I have never hated the ending to a film more than this film. They could have been Mr. and Mrs. Plate, is all I'm saying. I understand thematically why they wanted that to happen, but I don't think that it was necessary for the messaging. Like, they already got their message across without having to make it so sad. Yeah, it's just I don't particularly like this film very much. Yeah, and I'm glad that they stopped doing the Meg Ryan in a relationship with one guy she's not that interested in, and then leaves him towards the middle of the film for someone she has more chemistry with. I'm glad they stopped that. They really needed to.
Oh,
because
like
it was
You Got
getting
Mail?
to be a lot.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I would put this in, I don't know, a D or F. I would say F. Yeah. Trying to think of the other movies we haven't gone through yet, and I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's what I say. We can rearrange them after we see all the other movies and where they stack. Chris.
Well, I mean, I already said where I put it at.
Where did you want to put it again?
I was saying D, but here's the thing: y'all bumped Leaving Las Vegas up to B, so that was one of my other D movies. Or no, that was one of my F movies. So you know what? Throw City of Angels in F. I'm fine with that.
I would be okay.
F for fair spot for it to go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, if I were like writing
on that.
reviews for a newspaper and I was hired to do it, I'm not sure I would give any of these movies an outright F. But for the purposes of this exercise, some movies have to go in F. So this one for me works in F.
Well, don't worry, we're going to come across a couple of movies here. You're going to easily be like, "Yeah, F."
Oh, I made notes on everything, so we'll see.
Yeah, same.
Next one, which I love the history of this movie, only because, well, not only because it's a remake, but also because had it come out 1 year later, we would be like watching the 10th iteration of this movie pretty soon. That'd be Gone in 60 Seconds. Just 1 year away from potentially being the new Fast and Furious franchise. So I guess we're starting with me on this one. I love this movie. This movie is fun. It's completely, there's no way everyone's stealing all those cars in one night like that. That's not happening, not possible, but suspension of disbelief. This is a really fun movie, and it's another one of those movies that has a whole lot of good actors in it. Some of them that are just known for their classic roles, like Robert Duvall. Why is he in this movie? Especially in the role that he plays in this. It's weird. But then a lot of really good ones, like Delroy Lindo in this is really good. Christopher Eccleston is really good. I think even Master P is in this movie for a brief moment, and I was like, oh, okay. There's Master P making Nicolas Cage say, I guess, I don't know. That was a dumb joke. But I definitely love Nicolas Cage, his relationship with his brother in this movie. I feel like that is very reminiscent of my relationship with my brother.
Huh?
And yeah, you haven't been kidnapped or threatened with death though, so we're still good.
Am I the fuck up here?
Anyways, I really like this movie. I don't know. I would want to stick this I would want to stick this in A, but our A is full. I don't know. I'd probably put it above Moonstruck, but under The Rock. So that's where I would want to put it. But
I don't love you.
oh, okay. Maxwell.
Okay, so first of all, and this is very important to me on a personal level, in your exercise naming all the wonderful supporting players, you missed perhaps the most important one, the one who, when this individual is in a movie or TV show, I light up like a Christmas tree, and that is Timothy Oliphant, one of the sexiest, most charismatic, most dynamic performers of the last 20 years, for my money. I love this man. This is a really fun movie. It's absurd. It's a car heist movie. It makes no sense, but the ensemble is great. Everyone's in on the gag of it. This was the other one I had as B tier alongside Face Off and Con Air. So, but that's full. So I don't know how we want to land with this. I would, if I'm like being asked, I would probably put it in between Face Off and Con Air. I like it a little more than Con Air, but I don't know. I don't think it should go as high as A, but we'll see where the cards lie.
Okay. Lego.
This is probably my favorite Nic Cage movie. I absolutely love this film. The soundtrack is phenomenal. The cast, it's just such a stacked, phenomenal cast. I think Spanx has one of the greatest character intros ever. I am not a big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, but I love this movie for some reason, and I honestly can't even put words to why I like it. That being said, I will mention that, like, of course, music, like soundtrack in a film, can really make or break your experience with a film. In this, I love Leaving Las Vegas, for example. I did not like the musical choices, and that really took me out of the movie. This is a movie that I've just grown up with watching my entire life. I watch it, I've probably seen it like 50 times. I adore this film. It is ridiculous, but they do actually have really good like setups and callbacks that work, like Cleetry with the coffin and then what happens at the end. I just really like the movie. Everything makes sense. While it is ridiculous, it is sensical. Like, the script does follow through with the logic of the film. It's really hard to remove my bias. But in terms of just like quality of the film, I would say this is above Face Off for me. But I would put it below, in terms of like the actual film itself, below Raising Arizona.
Okay.
So however that shifts things.
Yeah.
Just for me.
Chris?
For me, this is another one of those that I say ends up in that the action films that go in the A tier. It was this one, The Rock, and Con Air for me. So this one I think was actually between the two of them. Yeah. So this one is, I enjoyed it. So I feel like I am known to enjoy the Fast and Furious movies. There's a certain level of absurdity that I am really into, and this movie falls in line with that completely. It's got just a great ensemble cast. Everybody works so well together here, and I don't know. There's just something about it's the high energy, fast paced nature of it too that I think is really great, and really it's one of those, like, how it's shot. This was a Jerry Bruckheimer movie too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer, known to make really solid movies. You know, you go to the movie theater, you want a good, solid movie theater experience. Jerry Bruckheimer's got your back pretty much every time. This is one of those I think falls in line with that. It is just a really entertaining, solid. You know, you need something to throw on, gone 60 seconds. You're gonna have a good time with it. Enjoy it. For me, this is in the A tier. I personally would have put it between The Rock and Con Air in the A tier. So for me, it's just kind of wherever it ends up here. If we put it in there and you bump The Rock up to S, I understand. If you put it in the top of B tier and you bump Leaving Las Vegas down to C, there's that option too. But somewhere in there, I think, is where it fits.
I could sign off on either of those adjustments personally.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
I would almost, I don't know which one I'd prefer, because I have a lot more A's and S's to go.
Yeah, I am kind of the idea. I would rather bump The Rock up to S to make room for Gone in 60 Seconds to fit in like towards the end of A, the beginning of B, maybe. I'm not really wanting to bump Leaving Las Vegas out of B, though. It is, again, still too well made of a movie for it to be any lower than B, and it's only in B because of the watchability.
Not going to argue about The Rock properly and deservedly going in S tier. So.
Yeah. So where do we want to stack everything else? So if The Rock's going to go up to A, well, someone go let PLD know that we're putting The Rock in S tier so he comes back.
I guess put this at the bottom of A for now.
Okay, so under Moonstruck and Raising Arizona?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, guys, if you want to yell at us and you want our attention while you're yelling at us, feel free to hit that streamlabs.com/cinefanatics. We will absolutely see you yelling at us there. I
am more likely to acknowledge your yelling if there is money associated with it. So yeah, it's a Jew thing.
It's true. Your opinion means more when there's a dollar sign next to it.
Ooh, that's dicey.
Yeah. I mean, your opinion means a lot. We appreciate you being here, but...
No, someone's got to say it like it is.
If there was your opinion with money and your opinion without money, we're definitely going to the hand that has your opinion with the money. I mean,
I feel like that works a lot better. I don't want dirty money. Like, I don't know.
But if you do something good with it, you can clean it up.
I mean, soap and water exists.
Hey.
Hand sanitizer, at least.
Hand sanitizer.
Okay. Justice. Ryan Payne. Very nice. Anyways, yeah, there was the super chat by AJ Lancaster saying that's not a tool, that's a damn brick. And he goes to break the window. Staying in the 2000s, there is, and I know how my brother's going to feel about this one, The Family Man. This one we're going to start with Maxwell.
This, to me, is the epitome of a C movie. It's fine. It is one of Brett Ratner's better movies, which is not saying much. You throw it on at Christmas and it plays on the background. It's not terrible. It's not great. It just is what it is. It's very clearly riffing on stuff like A Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life, and it's not as good as either of those stories. It is, basically a shameless ripoff because it doesn't credit any of those things. But Nic Cage is charming. Tia Leone is charming enough. It's a C movie for me. It's okay.
Yeah. Lego?
Oh, I absolutely despised this movie with a passion. I won't go on a Marxist feminist rant, I promise, but I did have that thought while I was watching this movie. Maxwell is I am totally on the same page when it is basically just like a discount off the rack, like slightly damaged version of The Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life. But even thematically, it didn't even do that right, because Nicolas Cage, he wasn't rude to anyone at the beginning of the film. He wasn't doing any kind of behavior that oh, that guy's a jerk. He needs to be taught a lesson and a value and some sort of moral story. He was a perfectly nice guy that just liked nice things, and that's not wrong or bad, but the movie punishes him for those desires. And the ultimate idea is that, oh man, yeah, family is more important than anything. So if you focus on your career and you don't want children, you're doing life wrong. And his job as a man is to be the breadwinner, and his career is more important, and the woman's career is put in the back seat, and he wants her to stay and with him and be a mother at the end. That's just so inappropriate. And this goes back to my male wish fulfillment type of movies. I absolutely despise this movie. F tier. So hard F tier for me. Ugh.
I have no problem with any of that, by the way.
Hey, Chris, let's hear your opinion.
Nope. I like it.
By the way,
this
I
movie.
love how that turned out with how the order of this was
I
going.
don't like how it turned out.
My bad. I'll just.
I understand it all, but I still like it.
Oh, that's great.
It's A tier.
All right, Chris, get back in here and share your opinion proper. You are allowed to do that.
Nah, I'm good. It's A tier for me.
Is that all you want to leave it at?
Yeah, no, it's a. I hear all that. I understand all that, and I get like the troubling aspects of it. For me, it is. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain after all of that how to say like I actually still find something like heartwarming and enjoyable about it. I think it's taking aside. Here's the direction I'll go for. I get the viewpoint of the movie projecting the idea that if you focus on your career and not having a family, that's wrong. I get that. I get the movie, the idea that it's projecting that ideal and that it's okay for people to live their life how they want. If they want a life of just career only and they aren't looking for a wife and kids or any of that kind of situation, totally fine. At the same time, though, I try to hone in and think, okay, this movie's talking specifically about this one individual character, and deep down inside this character's mind and heart, he did actually want this, and he's just being shown that he wanted this truly in this movie, and not that he was wrong for pursuing a career, but maybe just this one character actually did want the wife, the kids, the different life than what he had. So I don't know. I mean, those are all like really good points. For me, it's one of those like heartwarming, like there's a comfort side of it to me. There's a comfort aspect of the movie to me that I really enjoy. Maybe it's just the holiday side of it. I don't know, but there's something about it that still I actually really enjoyed. So I throw A tier, but I think we're all over the place here, so it's not going to end up there.
This movie, in my opinion, has a very strong case of why don't you just fucking tell them? Like, I hate movies like that where, like, he could have explained to her what's going on. Hey, I'm not your husband that you're used to knowing. If I had left and went to go have my career, never came back, I'm that person in this body. You don't understand. I know you're not going to understand. You're going to look at me crazy, but that's what's going on here. Like, all he had to do was just explain that. And I feel like most of the movie, it would have had that weird part where she had to get used to that idea. But the rest of the movie, I think, would have done a little bit better had they explained that. And I hate it when movies have that situation. Like, all the main character has to do is just explain the situation and everyone understands and it moves on the way you think it logically should, if this was something that was happening in real life. And that it's really super annoying when they don't do that to me. So
I'm noticing a trend here. We're doing a lot of like comparing Nic Cage movies to real life, and I think we probably should stop doing that.
Oh, just wait till we get to the unbearable weight of massive talent. We're going to compare that one to real life too.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah, because of that, kind of like what Maxwell was saying, it's ripping off, like a straight up rip off of It's a Wonderful Life. It's just the reverse of it. What happens if you were in their lives instead of out of their lives? Yeah, it's not that compelling. I don't feel like any real need to watch him succeed, or like I really don't even care if he learns anything at the end of this. There's just we turned on the camera and made a movie. So I probably would throw this like in D because it's at least watchable and there's parts of it that are kind of endearing. But yeah, otherwise.
But I'm just saying, like, even if it's a small part, Don Cheadle is a superstar.
Oh, I wanted to shout out the actor who played the daughter. Most adorable little child ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like he tells her and she knows the whole time, but
well, she figured it out, which was cute. And then she thought he was an alien, which makes me wonder, what are they letting their daughter watch?
Yeah.
Because she's clearly seen some movies she probably wasn't old enough for.
Guarantee she watched Knowing. So we're saying somewhere around
D works for me.
D. I know Lego is saying F. I'm thinking D-ish. Chris is saying A-ish.
Sorry, Chris.
Well, we did
Okay,
get...
I've gotten used to the fact that I never get what I want in any of these. So
It's because you keep wanting to throw Batman, like Batman 89 in F tier.
Oh my gosh, you might be my hero. We should talk.
We do have Jake Iacovetta threw in a Streamlab saying, I demand justice for the family man. Hashtag Team Chris. So Jake Iacovetta also likes the family man.
I'm with AJ. Weatherman's better.
Yes.
I'm just saying, you can like It's a Wonderful Life and Family Man. It's okay to like both.
Is it though? I don't know. Next one. It's a Nicolas Cage twofer here. We got Adaptation.
Am I done with my controversial opinions?
Probably not.
There's probably at least one more, potentially.
Who we start with on this one? Lego?
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
You know, I as a person can recognize when there's a good movie that just isn't for me. This is a great movie and I absolutely don't like it. You know, being John Malkovich, I saw when it came out when I was a very young youth, and that traumatized my soul. And this movie kind of just carried that through. I was very confused at the beginning, which normally doesn't happen to me. Usually I'm capable of keeping track of what's going on with the plot, but I don't know why, but I thought the whole thing with Meryl Streep was what he was writing. So when it actually came, they interacted, I was like, I thought that was in his imagination, so I guess that's what's actually happening. I don't know what's happening in this movie. There's two Nicolas Cages. This is too much for me to pay attention to. It's a movie about writer's block, and it's just too anxiety-inducing for me. Writer's blocks are horrible, and I would definitely recommend this to people who don't get writer's block. If you do, stay clear. Be warned. Beware. Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage in 1 and 2. I know that's not their names, but that's what I'm calling them. Phenomenal job. Great performance. I mean, Meryl Streep is in it. Obviously, Meryl Streep is fantastic. I don't know how you write a movie about making flowers beautiful, and clearly he didn't either. I don't know where to put this movie. It gets difficult because it's like, good movie. I doubt a lot of people watch this over and over again. This seems like a movie that people watch maybe twice and, you know, talk about in film class. I would put it personally in C, trying to be as fair as possible and get over like my feelings towards it.
Chris?
This, for me, this is a movie that I feel like I shouldn't like. But it's one I do like. So I feel like I'm almost like kind of the opposite of Lego on this one. Like, I feel like I shouldn't like it, but I do. There's something about, I'm getting an echo in my ears.
Yeah, I hear it too.
Yeah. There's something about it, like, I don't know, because this one, the pacing would normally probably throw me off on it, but I think it's the character interactions that is what glues me into it. Charlie and his brother and their interactions, and me the entire time trying to figure out, is his brother a real person? What's happening here? Does he actually exist? Or does he not? Is he in his mind? I can't tell until at one point when you do know what's going on. I enjoyed that. Meryl Streep, Chris Cooper, all putting in solid performances in this movie. I like the introspective look. Like there's a certain level of meta in this movie that I think handled it just right. Even to the degree of where they're kind of replaying behind the scenes of being John Malkovich in the movie itself, and I was like, wait, they brought everybody back from being John Malkovich just to have references to that movie in this movie. That's amazing. It is, I don't know. I can't put my finger on why I specifically enjoyed it. I can't say that it's one that I am going to flock to again necessarily, but it is one that I know that the first time through I actually really, really did like it. I think it is just Nicolas Cage's performance as Charlie, and kind of his like inner monologue and where it plays into the story, and kind of like how he formulates and comes to conclusions about things that I think I really, really enjoyed about it. It's just more of the character piece side of things that I think I really enjoyed. For me, where'd I put this? I would put it probably, for me, I'd probably put it in the B tier.
Okay. I loved being John Malkovich.
Malkovich.
And that was, I think that's another one of those that took me like a second watch to really love it. This one, so Chris watched this movie before I did, and he was telling me like, you might not be a fan of like how it goes, because it is kind of like what Lego was saying. It is kind of like scattered all over the place in some places. So unless you are really like focused in on exactly what's happening, it does seem to kind of like jump around. Like, is he reading the book? Is he writing the screenplay? Are we seeing him right now? Like, what part's happening at what interval of this movie? That being said, though, I really enjoyed it. I thought Nicolas Cage did fantastic as Charlie and his fictional twin brother Donald. Meryl Streep was great in that role. Chris Cooper, I think, was probably like the standout for me in this movie. Even though Nicolas Cage is playing two different people, I love Chris Cooper's character in this. I really enjoyed it. I would say this is one, just for someone who likes movies, I would want to probably put this in S tier, but I don't believe it's actually going to go there. So, Maxwell.
I think this is the best movie out of all the 19 we're listing today. I think I wrote in my notes, I will fight to try to get this one on an S tier. I think it is a brilliant examination of identity and how difficult it can be to adapt something that you determine is unadaptable. I think it's Cage's second best performance. We'll get to what I think is his best later. But I just think this movie is clever and thoughtful and meta and just tickles my intellect and my sense of humor. And it's one of those things where that this exists, and Charlie Kaufman wrote an adaptation of the book about him struggling to adapt this book, and he created a fictional twin brother of himself, and then they're like, yeah, Nic Cage is the guy to play it. It is firing on all cylinders for me. I think it is brilliant. So for me, it's an S tier with a bullet, but we'll see where it ends up landing, I guess.
Yeah. So we got two of us saying S. Lego, where'd you want to put it?
I put it a lot lower than S, but I don't know. I mean, if everyone else is saying S, then it's S. But I just wouldn't put it there myself.
I mean, I was putting it in B, so I could. I mean,
so
I would have put it like
it could come up to A. I would probably put it above Moonstruck.
You know what that means, though?
Yeah, what's going to shift around?
You're going to have to drop Leaving Las Vegas to C.
I want to keep it at B, though.
Them's the rules, baby!
I know. Like, we could just not do a show where we're ranking things.
I mean, you can put it in S. You can slide it in S right now, and we can see where it lands by the end. But
you know what? That sounds good. I like that idea. Everyone okay with that?
Just to keep from shifting Leaving Las Vegas, but I'm not saying that it's going to end well for you by the end of it.
Yeah. Jake, you better not drop Gone in 60 Seconds. Real quick, we did get another Streamlabs from AJ Lancaster saying, here's the pitch. Cage plays Charlie Kaufman. Kaufman plays Cage. They swap faces and have to live a parody of each other's lives. The unbeatable face-off of massive adaptation.
My brain is destroyed.
There's a hell of a pitch there, AJ. Hell of a pitch.
Also, Nerd did mention it too. You got some adaptation vibes and a few scenes of Massive Talent, but it's not what you'd probably think. Yes. If you have not yet seen, if for some reason you haven't seen Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent yet, I do recommend you watch adaptation before seeing it, because I think you'll find there's a lot of connective tissue between those two.
Yeah. Next one. Ooh, this one's gonna be a fun one. Matchstick Men. Who are we going with first this time? Is it Chris?
Wow, I completely forgot who went first on adaptation.
Who started on adaptation? Lego did. Yeah, so Chris.
Okay, so this is me.
Me and Chris are going to say pretty much the same things about this movie.
So I need to rewatch it again. It's been probably some years since I've seen it, but I do know that the last time I watched it, I loved it, and the time I watched it before that, I loved it. This movie is easily one of the, I think, smartest written stories on this list, and I think this is one of those movies where there's stuff going on that I don't ever want to give away or spoil for anybody. It's one of those movies that you need to just check out before you get anything spoiled from it for you. This is easily an S-tier movie for me. Everybody's performances fantastic. The movie itself is just so smartly written, and I'm surprised that I didn't rewatch it right before we did this ranking. I love it. I think it's such a great movie. I think it's such a great time. I'll let you dive more into the specifics of it, because I know we're saying the same thing here, but I'm going S tier for Matchstick Men.
Yeah, agree. S tier. This is a fantastic movie. This is one of those, okay, Chris was kind of touching upon it. I'll reiterate just to drive home the point. This has an ending, I would say, on par with like The Sixth Sense or The Usual Suspects or something. If you haven't seen this and you don't know the ending, after we're done with this, go find out where this movie is available and watch it, because the ending to this is so good. Just, I absolutely love the movie. The way it was put together, everything that they do in this. It's a movie about con men, basically. And it's like watching a well-done con movie is fantastic. And this is probably, like, I would say, one of the epitomes of it. But kind of like what like Garth is saying. Garth is saying underrated movie, A tier. I definitely highly underrated. This is probably like the top peak of what I would say is an underrated movie. But I will also echo what Chris is saying. I want to throw this in S tier also. So
yeah,
Maxwell.
We're getting into dicey territory because Nic Cage has a lot of good movies, and I pretty much agree. I had this as an A on my list. I love it. I think it's clever. I love a good con man movie. Nick is great. Sam Rockwell's great, and Alison Lohman, who sadly has disappeared from movies, had a heck of a 2003 with this and Big Fish. I think the three of them make a great trio. The way that the relationships and the chemistry unfolds throughout the movie. And it's easy to forget. It's directed by Ridley Scott. I think it's unlike a lot of his other stuff, and one of his more underseen and underappreciated movies. When people talk about his best movies, for me, this is pretty high up on the list because it stands singular amongst a lot of his sci-fi movies and his historical epics that he's done, especially post-Gladiator. A lot of those in the middle there started to run together, and this one, I think, is sort of a diamond in the rough in his filmography. So I had it at A. So.
Okay. And Lego?
This movie is very sad and stressful, I found. It's about con men taking advantage of another con man. And yeah, man, Sam Rockwell and Nic Cage together is fire. Like, they need to do another movie together. The performances are all phenomenal, although I did find the daughter pretty insufferable. It's well written. The only thing I think I didn't particularly like is that I generally don't like how any kind of mental illness is depicted. Generally, it's not depicted in a way that's very realistic, which this movie was not depicted in a way that was very realistic. But it was really tragic how this man was essentially being taken advantage of because he was in a situation that made him more vulnerable, and because he stupidly trusted the wrong people. And yeah, I think it's a good story. I'm trying to think where I would place it. I mean, I would go A. For me, it's an A tier movie. However, based on the movies we have in A tier, I would put it in B tier.
Okay. So that's what, two. Maxwell, you were saying S?
A
S
for
or
me.
A?
2 S's,
So-
an A, and a B.
Yeah, so this is probably going to drop down to A, essentially,
Probably.
which means either something from A needs to bump up to S, or we need to shift things down.
I think it's time for Leaving Las Vegas to move to C.
Leaving tier B.
Leaving B tier.
It is a foregone conclusion at this point. I think. Listen, you're the one who made the rules of this silly game. I just wanted to talk about movies I like.
Yeah. You made weird rules, man.
Everybody always says that. And you know what? It's part of the show.
I hate
There's got to be
this
some
show.
stakes to this. There's got to be some stakes.
Steak does sound good for dinner.
It's midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not eating a steak this late.
Nothing like a midnight steak.
No.
Okay, so we want to put this in A.
Sounds like a fake Nicolas Cage movie. Midnight Steak.
Midnight steak. Yeah, it does. Do we want to put it above Moonstruck?
I would put it for me in between Raise Arizona and Moonstruck personally.
I mean,
I like
obviously,
that.
obviously the two of us are S tier, so for me it does go above Moonstruck, but
Oh, we're split down the middle.
Let's go ahead. I would say let's stick it between Raising Arizona and Moonstruck for now.
We are in trouble with what some of this stuff I have coming, frankly.
But with the other movies coming up,
Yeah.
Hey, on
It's
this
one of
list, I had a
those,
lot
like-
more A's and S's than I had anything else. So.
yeah.
Jake, you don't want us to move Gone in 60 Seconds down to B tier, but you got to watch Matchstick Men, man. Maybe if you see Matchstick Men, your opinion changes on that. You understand why we're doing this.
Yeah.
Jake is taking that straight from my heart. He's saying what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Again, I think we can all agree that at least C and above is at least a good movie. Thus far,
Yeah.
based on how everything's going.
I mean, currently, I think
Now that we put Leaving Las Vegas down there, we need to clarify that C's tier is still a good movie. It's just not one we're going to watch again. All right, so this one's a definitely a big crowd pleaser. National Treasure.
Woo!
Let's see. So this time we're starting with me.
Yep.
This is a fun movie. I'm not big into like the archaeology type of movies. I know this one's not as big into the archaeology as like say Indiana Jones. But I do believe this is a fun like cat and mouse, hide and seek, what's it called? Treasure hunt. Just a fun treasure hunt where one clue leads to the next clue and you got to figure out something brainy, even though it may be completely absurd on how they figure it out. Those are just fun movies to watch, the thought process linking from one to the other. That being said, C, this is just a very middle of the road movie for me. I don't mind watching it again, but it's never one I'm sitting there like, man, I want a good entertaining movie. Let's watch National Treasure. Like this one, I'll watch. Yeah, I know Chris is losing his mind. It's fun watch. I won't turn it down, but it's not the first and foremost of movies I'm going to. So yeah, I would say C tier. Maxwell?
That hurts.
For me, other than The Rock, I like this more than all of Nic Cage's 90s and early 2000s action movies on this list. I think it's pure fun. I think it's silly. I love adventure movies almost sometimes more than like high octane action movies. And this is playing in that sandbox with treasure hunt, with clues, with riddles and puzzles to solve. Nic Cage and Justin Bartha and Diane Kruger are really fun. Sean Bean is always a welcome presence. Again, for me, this is one of those movies that knows exactly what it wants to be and succeeds in all of that handily. I had it as an A, but I have a lot of these on A because I just like a lot of these movies. So I don't really know what to say at this point because we're stuck.
Yeah. Lego.
This is just a fun, like, Disney action movie. All the characters are really great. The movie itself is ridiculous fun. Like, I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. The sequel is just as good as this one, which is a rarity. It's just a fun movie. It gets difficult here with the rankings, though. It's definitely a beloved film. But like in looking at all of these, comparatively, I would put it probably after Face Off in B tier for me.
Okay. Chris?
This is another one where you get to tell the flavor of movies that Chris enjoys. I love a solid Jerry Bruckheimer adventure movie. I mean, he do Pirates of the Caribbean also? I mean, come on. I love these kinds of movies. I know, like, my brother does not like the adventure type movies. You've never been like a big fan of those. These I actually really do enjoy. I love the treasure hunting, the clue hunting side of these things. I think there's just it's like everybody else has said. It is just a fun, entertaining movie. I absolutely love it. It does land harder for me, and that's the thing. That's what I love about these tier rankings. Also, is because we have stuff like, you look at that S tier right now. We got both The Rock and Adaptation in there. You have the high octane action movie. You have the thinking piece film. For me, this is another one of those kinds of movies where it's broad entertainment, but it's really, really fun. It's just, it's just really fun. So for me, like, this is an S tier for me. I just had a ton of fun with it. Can I overuse the word fun? Fun. This movie's a national treasure.
You're starting to sound like a Beach Boys song at this point.
Yes.
So,
or John Malkovich from Being John Malkovich. Malkovich.
Yeah.
It's S tier for me. I just love these kinds of movies.
So we got S. Lego, you're saying A?
Yes.
Maxwell, you're high A?
A.
Okay.
But at this point, whatever happens, I've resigned myself to not being happy with this list, so I don't really care anymore, frankly. I mean, I just want to talk about these movies.
We'll still fix it. We'll still fix it.
I mean, given the movies that are coming, I don't see this one for me making S tier at all.
I agree with that.
It'll probably be bumped down to B for me.
Yeah, and that's I think where I end up. Like, I'm just placing based on where I would have ranked it had I gotten my wish on every single spot of these movies. I do recognize it's probably not going to be an S. So it ends up where it ends up, but it's definitely on the higher end, I think.
I still see two other movies further down that I'm like, oh yeah, these are going to go S easily.
I got two other movies that are S tier for me.
Yeah, I guarantee one of the two I'm thinking of is not one of the ones you're thinking of.
Yeah, see, I'm like AJ. Abolish the limits.
Abolish
Break
tier
the
limits.
Rules. Shatter expectations.
I could see this going.
Your
to
tier limits needs to be abolished alongside the Electoral College. Enough is enough.
Like, why are we quantifying our love of things?
Let's just have like no tiers, no Electoral College, no rules, cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria.
Well, you know what happens if you get that though? You get a giant Twinkie. Don't you want a giant Twinkie?
I do want a giant.
Give yourself a giant Twinkie, man.
Yeah. Patty in the chat. The limit does not exist. I'm always down for doing a Nic Cage tier ranking and throw in a little Mean Girls in that. So.
I mean, what's the point of a tier ranking if we're just going to put everything in S?
Well, I don't get the point of limiting the number on the rankings because then it's not a tier ranking, it's just a numerical ranking. But that's just math, and who knows numbers?
I don't know numbers.
No one on this channel.
Yeah. So we're gonna put this in A. I would personally probably want to put it under Matchstick Men. So
I can see that.
Putting it where Raising Arizona is, everything drops down. Like everything just drops down to 1.
I easily have Matchstick Men above it, so works for me.
Lego, good.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Maxwell, you're okay with it?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, so
That's a good point.
That is a great point, actually. Nic Cage.
Garth, cats and dogs live together all the time. Many people have both as pets.
But it's such a good line. Like that is like one of the most quotable lines from Ghostbusters. So, oh, okay. Let's see who's next.
I think
you did
start?
National Treasure.
I did, yeah, I did National Treasure. So
Oh,
while I move these,
yes.
yeah, while I'm moving these around, we'll start with Maxwell talking about the next one. Next one's Wicker Man. Maxwell, good luck on this.
Listen, Nicolas Cage is a joy to behold in this absolutely garbage piece of shit misguided remake. Purely based on how much fun Nic Cage is having, I put it in D and not F. As a movie, it's probably an F, but there's just like when he admitted in an interview recently that they were trying to make a comedy, I still think it fails as a comedy, but at least it was slightly illuminating to what they were going for. And what baffles me is that Neil LaBute, a respected, thoughtful, intelligent playwright who has made some stuff I don't like, but at least was regarded as an artist and not some schlocky filmmaker, put this together. I don't fucking understand it. I don't care if it ends up in F, fine. If it ends up in D, fine. If it ends up higher than that, I'm leaving.
Nic Cage in this sad attempt at what Midsummer did so well. Oh, this movie is so bad. This movie is so bad. However, being from around the area this movie takes place, I can confirm I find it absolutely believable. Puget Sound is a weird place. I don't know. This movie is nonsense. It's utter nonsense from beginning to end. However, you get a shot in this movie where Nic Cage is in a bear suit and he punches a woman in the face. And that's amazing. The filmmaking in and of itself is not good. The screenwriting is not good. The acting is fine. Nic Cage somehow is able to play a straight man in this movie while simultaneously being over the top, which I feel like is a rare thing that he's one of the few actors that does really well. If you had an actual like straight man in this movie, like someone who plays it very seriously, like a Daniel Day-Lewis, this movie would have been even worse. However, if you had someone who was actually trying to be funny, like maybe an Adam Scott or something, or Paul Rudd, this movie would have been much worse. Nic Cage found that perfect balance that this movie's still bad, but like he's not necessarily bad in it. Like his choices as a performer make sense in a movie that, did I mention it was ridiculous? Because it is ridiculous. I don't understand, like the dream sequence is okay, but then you find out that they're there, so they didn't die. And then she's there, but she's a cop. But then how is she? Who are they? Why is that? I don't know. The mom from The Exorcist is in this, and she's fantastic in it because she's fantastic in everything. She's a phenomenal actor. Everything in this movie is clunky and ludicrous, and I like it. It's so bad it's good, but this isn't even that. It's just awkward and weird. And again, Midsummer is better. And I really found that I don't know if they were trying to have a sentiment of I don't know if they were purposely trying to make it anti-feminist or if it was just like F women, but I didn't appreciate that sentiment in the film. So yeah, this movie is totally F for me.
That's fine.
Chris.
Sorry.
Chris, go ahead.
Just-
Let's get your opinion of it now that she gave hers.
So
You love
Guys,
this movie, I know.
I have to tell you, maybe we should raise the limit on the S tier because I'm just kidding. Put this thing in F. What are we doing? Just put it in F already. We don't even need to hear your opinion. Just put it in F.
Legos like later.
No, this movie is hot garbage. Nicolas Cage does do a good job. I mean, as far as it's fun in terms of like watching his performance, but outside of that, Ellen Burstyn, she did actually a really good job given what she had to work with in this script. I think even Lily Sobieski did a pretty good job with what she was given in the script too. Outside of that, there's not much else I can really say that there is to enjoy about this movie. Yeah, I'm definitely on record saying Midsommar did it a lot better. And I can say that because I've actually seen Midsommar, excuse me. Let me properly. Midsommar. Let me say that when we talk. Midsommar. Yeah. Look, the only really redeeming thing about watching this movie is a clip that you can find on YouTube. Watch that clip. Call it a day.
So, are you saying F tier? Okay.
F
Just want to make sure we're clear.
Fuck this movie.
Yeah, I feel like this movie is like a parody movie, like Airplane. This is like a parody of Midsommar, even though it came out before Midsommar. So
You're giving it too much credit. That suggests intent, and there is no intent in this movie.
So Maxwell did bring up the thing that behind the scenes, Nicolas Cage was saying that they actually did kind of like intentionally make this as a comedy. I believe that about as much as I believe
The Room was a comedy.
The Room. Yeah, what's his face saying? Like, oh no, I make comedy movie. It's supposed to be funny. Yeah, I don't believe that this was like intentionally like originally set up. Now I have seen I forgot who it was. I think it was Drew McWeeny was talking about. He posted something on Twitter talking about Wicker Man and saying that he actually did talk to Nicolas Cage on the set of another movie and that they were talking about how they were doing stuff on purpose just because of how absurd it is, which that is cool. But yeah, I don't believe that they intentionally were trying to do. Yeah. Thanks, Jake. Tommy Wiseau. They weren't intentionally trying to make this a comedy right off the bat. I also I'm going to rate it even lower in that the most famous scene from this movie that everybody knows wasn't actually in the movie. It's a deleted scene. Now, if you saw it in the movie, you saw the unrated version. But in the original PG-13 movie, they don't show the bees. They don't show them breaking his legs. You hear them breaking his legs while they're marching to the Wicker Man at the end, but they don't actually show the scene with the bees. They do in the unrated, not the original theatrical release. So
well, that was in an era, because this came out in 2006, where DVDs were really taking off. So a lot of studios were mandating that horror movies in particular rated things down. That way they can up their sales for home ownership by having these unrated versions. So your PG, if your movie was originally rated R, they would cut a scene out so it would get PG-13, and the unrated home ownership would be the R rated, the actual intended cut of the film. Yeah. That was just a small time period where that was just really popular. Yeah, so I think the only version I have actually seen is the one with the bees. I've not seen the one without. And that's been your lesson on DVDs today.
I know I rented it or whatever the other night to watch it, and I guess I got the PG-13 because I was like, wait, where's the scene with the bees? And that's when I looked up. I was like, wait, that's a deleted scene? What the hell? Anyways, yeah, I agree. This movie's F.
What's funny is I got the unrated version, but I rented it from YouTube, and they had it listed as the PG-13 version, so they didn't even care enough to like list the correct version.
I mean,
on it.
there's not really anything in there that I don't think wouldn't still fit within the PG-13. They beat his legs with a hammer or whatever, and you see the legs like bend, but there's no blood, there's no gore.
No. There's nothing about it that was unrated. It could have still fit in the PG-13.
So,
range.
fun fact, you can only have so many B's in your movie before it's R. That's not true, but it sounds like it could be.
Oh.
That's awesome. That sounds like the opening to Be Cool, where Chili Palmer's talking about how many F-bombs you can have in the movie. Fun fact on that movie real quick, because I love this. It is a PG-13 movie. You are allowed typically one F-bomb in a PG-13 movie, and they used it on that dialogue. He says it right at the very beginning, like, you can only have one fuck in a PG-13 movie, and that was it. So that was pretty funny. Hopefully this one's not going to go F tier, but I understand if it does. Ghost Rider. Lego, we're starting with you on this.
It's going F tier based on the only other few movies we have left. It's kind of got to. This movie's just. I couldn't even think of anything to say about it. Like, I think I tweeted, this is Marvel's The Covenant. This movie is just so bad. I know it's based on a comic. I'm not familiar, however. I never read any Ghost Rider. But the movie itself, being that I can't judge it as an adaptation, I can only judge it for the movie itself, it's just not good. It's just not good. And Wes Bentley is a good actor, but he was not good in this. Nicolas Cage, I think this might be his worst performance. The female character, I'm going once again, male wish fulfillment, really hate it. The story itself is just even for a comic book movie, it's just Blackheart sounds like the name of a goth Care Bear. I mean, Sam Elliott looked cool. Like the actual like Ghost Rider, like the visual looked cool. That's the only compliment I could give this film. F.
Chris.
This is pointing the movie. That's like every other scene he's pointing at someone or something.
Yeah.
God, I love Goth Care Bear. That was fantastic. There's aspects of this movie that I guess could be considered something relatively close to the idea of fun. But for the most part, this movie is just not. They just missed a mark completely. There is a world where a Ghost Rider movie can be done, and it can be done well, and it can be interesting, fascinating, fun. It could work. It could even work well with other Marvel characters. This was not this movie. Even though this movie tried to do Mephisto before it was cool to talk about Mephisto. There's just so much about this that just was kind of I want to try to say something good about even Nicolas Cage's performance here. I think there are choices that are made in his performance that I think aren't good, and I have to probably pass that blame on to him. I think those were choices that he made. We love Nicolas Cage, but I think every aspect of this movie he probably should have just avoided. I don't know. This is one of those movies where like maybe at some point I'll watch it again. Probably not. I'm okay if I never watch it again, kind of a thing. For me, this is easily a F tier movie. Also, man.
Yeah. So for me, first off, I like Nicolas Cage as Johnny Blaze. I thought that was good casting. I believe that he is a stunt motorcycle Daredevil, not the superhero Daredevil, but I believe that he is of that caliber. That I feel like that was a good role for him. The effects are fantastic. I do like Peter Fonda as Mephisto in this. Nice callback to Easy Rider with him in there. I like Wes Bentley. I don't like his character in this movie. He's not threatening or scary at all. Goth Care Bear is fantastic.
Wait, you didn't like the part where you went, "Bah!" You didn't like that part?
if you actually look up Blackheart from the comics, the way he actually looks in the comic books, he actually does look more like a Garth. Sorry, Garth. He looks more like a goth Care Bear in the comics than he does in this movie. So yeah, completely agree with that. What else was it about this movie? I enjoy it. I thought it was fun. I've watched it multiple times. It's a bad comic book movie, but it's far from the worst. And I don't know if I'd want to put it in F. I would put it in D, just because I still have fun with it, but it is like terribly acted. There's a lot of pointing. It's still a fun flick for me. I like it. And also, I don't feel like I want to put it in F, because if we put Ghost Rider in F, where would you put Spirit of Vengeance at? Because that's way
That's not
worse
on the
than this
list
one.
you gave us, Robert, so it doesn't
know.
fucking matter.
It's not. But
I think this is a Mandela effect thing. There's no sequel to this movie. What are you talking about?
So I have officially gone on record saying that Spirit of Vengeance I watched once and I will never watch it again. It's just a terrible, terrible movie. So yeah, I would say D, just because I do still enjoy this. It's a fun movie. It's not the worst of like the mid 2000s comic book movies. That might be Elektra, possibly, and even Elektra I've watched multiple times just because. So
Right.
Yeah, I do enjoy this. So we have everyone saying F, and I'm saying D. Or no, Maxwell hasn't gone yet. Maxwell.
The existence of this movie gets my third Cage-os point. The real shame is Nic Cage loves the character so much and he deserved a better movie, but this is like if a high school drama club went to Spirit of Halloween, got costumes on clearance from last year's Halloween, and put on a movie in their backyard with like a Super 8 camera and like terrible CGI. It's garbage. It is as paint by numbers as comic book movies get. It is one of the worst Marvel movies ever made. And I actually like the sequel better because the directors at least threw a little madcap energy and wild filmmaking in it for what it's worth. This to me is just bland and boring, which is arguably the greatest sin any movie can commit, especially a movie called Ghost Rider. Like, that sounds awesome. There's a ghost and he rides shit. And they're like, oh, no.
This is not the PBS show with the floating dot that writes things on walls.
I love Ghost Rider. That shit was great.
The other thing I forgot to talk about on this real quick. This is actually the first comic book role that Nicolas Cage played. He's a huge comic book fan. He changed his name from Nicholas Coppola to Nic Cage, based off of Luke Cage. And of course, he is also well known for almost playing Superman in that Superman Lives movie.
He named one of his sons Kal-El.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I forgot about
There
that
wasn't
too.
a huge age difference. I would want him to be friends with Harley Quinn Smith.
So, I mean, big for Nicolas Cage. He finally gets to play a comic book character, and I thought Ghost Rider was perfect for him. The only other positive shout-out I'll give on this is Spider-Bait's cover of Ghost Riders in the Sky is actually really good. I love their cover of that in this.
Okay, put it in F. We're moving on.
F, all right.
Stop hemming and yeehawing and put it in F already.
After Wicker Man, or do we really not care where these are at in the F tier?
I don't care.
I'm not
Hard
watching
to
any
tell.
of these.
I mean, Wicker Man has Nic Cage in a bear suit punching a woman in the face. Does
That's
Ghost
true.
Rider have that?
No, it does not. No, it
No,
doesn't.
Ghost Rider has Rebel Wilson going,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Rebel Wilson's first movie. Yeah, that's right. Ghost Rider. The sequel does have Ghost Rider pissing fire, though. So, I mean, that's awesome.
You got me there.
Superhero with a venereal disease. Fantastic work there, guys.
oof.
Speaking of comic book movies, let's move on to Nicolas Cage's, I think, second comic book character that he played. It was Kick-Ass. Where we start with this one? We're starting with Chris.
Yeah, I don't. Here's the thing. Kick-Ass for me like wasn't one of those that really like grabbed me when I saw it. I probably need to give it another shot. Honestly, I didn't have time to do it again before we did this. It's one of those that I'm probably not going to favor as high, but if everybody else here does, I'm completely okay with that. I think Nicolas Cage in this movie was fantastic, though. I love his character in this movie. This just wasn't like... There's aspects of this movie that if you had told me about it, I probably wouldn't have watched this to begin with. Just certain aspects that I'm not a huge fan of, and I think people who know me know what I'm talking about, and we'll probably actually even dive into that on another movie that will pop up on this list. So for me, it doesn't like rank too high because it's not like one of my favorite comic book adaptations either. There's stuff to like about it for sure, but it's not really my cup of tea as far as a movie goes. I feel like this is one of those movies where like I can tell you where I'd rank it, but I think my opinion on this particular one is obsolete in comparison to everybody else's. I put it lower, but that's just because it's one of those movies that just doesn't connect with me as much as it does other people. I'm fine with wherever it ends up, though.
Real quick, I forgot before we got started with Kick-Ass. Jake Iacovetta did send in a Streamlabs. It's saying, and for your commercial break, everyone go do the hashtag Ember Challenge on Twitter. I will be donating $10 for every post up to $200 to my local rescue shelter. So thank you, Jake, for that. That is, of course, that's coming from Maxwell here and Amber as Ember Productions. So if you go check out Twitter, look up the hashtag Ember Challenge, you will see what the challenge actually requires. There's a photo selfie involved, and you have to use the hashtag Ember Challenge. So go do that. Help out a good cause as done by Jake. And there's Amber in the chat with the hashtag Ember Challenge. So make sure you put that in.
I will
Fantastic.
say this.
Mhm.
Jake created the challenge, and I'm very grateful that he did. It's really kind of him. And the two of us are going to match any donations he gives up to 200 as well. So do it. And it goes to dog shelters, and it's a great cause. And thank you, Jake. It's really, you're an asshole and I hate you, but this is really sweet of you. So points.
Justice for Jake.
Jake knows what he did, Lego. He knows.
He says he doesn't, but he probably does.
He does.
Jake always knows.
Yeah. Jake knows everything. Anyways,
like
as far as Kick, yeah, he sees everything. Yeah, always finds out. I love Kick-Ass. I think Kick-Ass is like one of the top like non-Marvel DC comic book movies. I think they did very well on it, even though it doesn't closely follow the comic really at all. There's quite a few changes between the comic and the movie. I do have fun with the movie. I think that they did a really good job with it as far as what they could and couldn't adapt from the comic. Man, I would want to put this in that A tier because that's where I think this would go. I have so much fun with this movie. But anyways, Maxwell.
This one was solidly C tier for me. I think Nic Cage and Chloe Grace Moretz are lovable in this movie and wonderful, and she has the best action scenes. I find the main characters and Christopher Mintz-Plasse reprehensible, disgusting, unlikable. To me, this is like an example of how Matthew Vaughn's films go so far into edgelord territory that I just check out and don't care at all. But on the flip side with this one, you do have Big Daddy and Hit Girl sort of balancing it out. I almost wish this was a movie just about those two characters. I'm very comfortable putting this in a C. It's fine.
Okay. Lego?
I really agree with what Maxwell and Chris were saying. I find this very low, like C tier. Nic Cage as Big Daddy, is kind of doing an Adam West Batman, was fun, but like his behavior, by the way, child abuse. Like,
oh yes,
clear child abuse.
Absolutely.
As Damian Wayne is great. Love to see it. She should be cast to play that in an actual DC film. I like the soundtrack. I found this movie, not as great as Super, which I'm pretty sure came out the same year. I have a joke that sometimes something will arise in a film that'll make me rage blackout. My usual go-to example is Top Gun, when Tom Cruise follows a chick into the bathroom and I just leave the movie because it makes me so upset. This movie, the mild homophobia, I do not appreciate. In 2010, it's beyond the time where that is in any way, shape, or form acceptable.
Completely
that
agree.
kid pretending to be queer and standing in a room with a girl with her top off because she thinks she's in a safer situation than she is wildly inappropriate. I absolutely hate it. I think the whole romance subplot and a whole is absolutely unnecessary, and again goes into my male wish fulfillment category. Hate it. Nicolas Cage's mustache was great though, and that's really the only nice thing I can say about it. The acting was good, soundtrack was good, Cage's mustache was good. I ultimately don't like the movie. I find it upsetting.
I'm gonna advocate based on what's left and what's going on that this goes in a D tier.
Kick-Ass in D.
I think Chris wouldn't disagree.
No, I think actually I would have put it in D myself.
So yeah.
Okay.
Because there's also there is a slight there's a slight curve in this list that has been established just based on the bounty of riches that Nicolas Coppola Cage has brought to our movie going hearts and souls.
Yeah.
I could see putting it in D. Above Family Man, or
I don't care. Sure,
doesn't matter to me.
Sure.
I mean, I'd put it.
I like Kick-Ass more than Family Man, so
okay.
Fair.
Chris is like, Family Man's an S tier. I'm gonna sleep with my Family Man DVD under the pillow tonight.
You probably will.
What makes you think I don't have a Family Man body pillow? It's just Nicolas Cage.
Well, then you should have been caressing it this entire stream to make it more interesting.
It's true.
Does it look like this one? Because it's hideous.
Hey.
Shame.
That man is beautiful.
Exactly.
It is, but I mean, that is just... Could you imagine, like, sleeping on this?
Yes. I have a Danny DeVito pillow that I caress
and then you wake up and
time.
you're like, what the hell?
The power of Cage compels you.
Yeah.
Sleep like a baby.
Anyways, next one real quick. So this one will be interesting. Who are we up to next?
I think I started Kick-Ass, so you start this one.
I think, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, this will make sense then. So already seeing the two of y'all's reaction to this already tells me what I already knew. I was like, man, y'all are going to love this. We're going to have a lot of positive things to say about Mandy. This movie
one of us has nothing to say on this one, by the way, so this is my bathroom break.
And we know why. This movie is bonkers. It is bonkers in all the right ways. But holy crap, this movie's just insane. I don't know what else to say about it. Just everything about this movie. Does he have his axe in this? He does. That axe is glorious. I don't know. Y'all, Maxwell, you talk about it.
Oh, I actually just rewatched this today right before this stream because this felt like the right note to leave things on. I adore this movie. It's like a psychedelic heavy metal album come to life as a film. And I think the construction of this movie is really smart because the first hour is slow paced. It's deliberate. It starts bringing in these forces. It builds up the relationship between Nic Cage and Andrea Riseborough, both of who are incredible in this movie. And then this movie has a turn. There is a scene in a bathroom with Nic Cage and his tidy whities that I think is some of the best acting of Nic Cage's career. And the second half of this movie is a slasher movie if the one doing the slashing is the hero. And that to me is so thrilling. It is an incredible action horror movie. The imagery is wild. It feels like an acid trip in the best way. I'm not sure I fully understand every second of it, but I will keep watching this movie until I die in the hopes of just being able to exist on this movie's plane. I would be fine with it an A or S, depending on how the cards shake out.
Yeah. Lego?
Oh, this hot pink Carpenter Brunch music video is fantastic from beginning to end. As Maxwell said, it is a very deliberate film. This is a director, I believe his name is, I'm going to butcher this, Cosmostos? Maybe?
Cosmostos.
It is, yeah. Panos Cosmatos.
Clearly had a very specific vision, and
so metal.
It is phenomenal filmmaking. I agree that bathroom scene with the leopard print underwear is mind blowing. Nicolas Cage doesn't have a lot of dialogue in this film, but the expressions he invokes are really brilliant. The story being told is more complicated than what I'm going to reduce it to, and I won't use the typical subgenre of film this is, but I'll say assault revenge is basically what this movie comes down to being, and it is done brilliantly and beautifully, and has the best, most epic chainsaw battle since Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. It is fantastic. I would put this in S tier personally. And also, I don't know what the Cheddar Goblin is, but it was disgusting and I loved it.
Yes, I agree.
So Chris,
I am very okay with this in S tier, but
Chris hasn't watched this. For those of you who have watched it, will probably understand why Chris hasn't watched it. But
there's a lot of blood.
I've shown Chris a couple of clips from this. One being the Cheddar Goblin. Two. I also showed him that shot of Nicolas Cage in the bathroom with his bottle of vodka, just completely losing it.
Which does seem like a very good Nicolas Cage scene, so I completely get that and understand. Yeah, I mean, I have to defer to the three of y'all on this one. Wherever you end up placing it is where I will agree to, because this is the one movie on the list I haven't seen. I don't mind blood. I'm not a fan of like over-the-top gory violence, so... That's where we end up here with this one for me.
What, you don't like the black spandex goth biker cult monster things?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah. Other thing I will say about this movie, Andrea Riseborough does a good job. Linus Roach as the main villain in this movie. Oh my god! Like, it took me a second to realize that he was Thomas Wayne in Batman Begins. Like, a completely different character for him. This is S tier. This is such like the definition of a cult classic. Just perfect in every way, shape, and form. We're all good with that, right? We're all S tier?
It's fine with me.
Yeah.
Boy, the next three are tough.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do.
These next ones are going to be a little difficult. Real quick. Got Streamlab from Commentating Nerd saying, okay, you guys don't like Kick-Ass, I guess. I can live with that. But it sounds like you guys have enough love for Cage to justify allowing up to 4 films in BAS. Something to consider in the wrap up of the show. Maybe. We can entertain like possibly moving around. Because there's a couple of these here. We got essentially one more spot in S and one in C and one in D. And these next movies these next 3 are not going to go in C or D. Almost guaranteed. So, speaking of which, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Nicolas Cage played Spider-Man Noir in this and was the perfect voice for that character. So, Maxwell, you start.
I think this movie is incredible. It is the epitome of what comic book movie making can be. Obviously, animation is, I think, the best medium to translate that comic booky feeling, but this is so inventive and clever. I don't know where to put this because, like, if we were just talking movies, it's amazing, but Nic Cage is a small part of why it's amazing. This is a movie where he's a small voice role. To me, it's all the other aspects in it that make it so great. So I don't, and where we're at with the rankings in A and S, I don't know. To me, it's an S or an A. Either way, I'm happy. But I'm going to be curious to see how the rest shakes out because I feel so strongly about the next 2 also. But this is a great movie. This is the best or second best Spider-Man movie. It's one of the best superhero comic book adaptations. Like the fact that he throws a bagel and they animated in bagel as like a boom pow type of thing, but it says bagel. Like that to me is what movies are all about, bagels. So
Yeah,
So everybody in the chat, just so y'all know real quick, we are ranking these based on the movies themselves, not Nicolas Cage's role or performance in it. So everyone's saying like it's a.
I will
ranking
say
because
this. I
he's
will
barely
take
in it.
some umbrage with you guys for picking this one because there are a
Yeah.
couple other live action Nick Cage movies I would have put in the 19 instead of this one. I would have put this one not in the 19 just because he's a small
Sure.
part of it, but it is.
Yeah,
cool.
this is a rare movie that Nic Cage is in rather than a Nic Cage movie.
Mhm.
In terms, but if we're going on the quality of the film, which he's just a small aspect of, and the movie completely functions without him being in it. This to me is one of the best movies that has come out this century. It is phenomenal. It is artistic. It is beautiful. It has a wonderful story. It is creative in the way that it tells the story, both visually and narratively. I mean, to me, this is the best movie we're talking about today. So I would put it at high as possible S. But in terms of like Nic Cage movies, being that he is a smaller part in it, I would be okay with it being an A because we are focusing on Nic Cage movies, and this isn't one of them. This is a movie with Nic Cage.
I am increasingly liking Nerd's idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Chris.
Yeah, I mean, so to the point of what this movie means to me, this was my number one Spider-Man movie until No Way Home. And even still, I can hear arguments as to why this is still the number one Spider-Man movie. So that being said, this is a movie that I have a lot of love for. Yes, I understand Nicolas Cage is not a big part in it. His role is actually really great, though. Like, as soon as we heard, like, Nicolas Cage was casted as Spider-Man Noir, I was like, sure, sounds great to me. Perfect. I absolutely love this movie. And if you want to know, like, why this movie is on this list kind of over some other movies, it's for the exact reason of, this is difficult, y'all. We just made this difficult. And that's the fun of the show. That's why I love doing these. I love being challenged.
We have different definitions of the word fun, Chris.
Yeah. That's why I love the challenge that the show presents, though. Is it allows you to be to think a little bit more on your different movies and your tastes and your critique of them. I love this. Like, for me, obviously, this is an S tier movie. I mean, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is an S tier movie. I hear the arguments. I hear the other side of it. If we want to rank it lower just because of that aspect, I get it. That's fine. I understand. For me, it is an S tier movie. That being said, I do also understand the next two movies are gonna make that challenging.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing. I like the movie. The movie's fantastic. He does have a small part in it. But yeah, this is an S tier movie. So just as far as we're ranking the movies, not necessarily Nic Cage's level in that movie, I would still probably say let's put it in S. But again, I know what else is about to come. So I know that's still going to be kind of challenging. But I think for right now, I would say let's put it in S. Because we all agree.
The other aspect to look at too is that if you look at the rest of the list, it is all just live action. It is nice to have like a throw an animation in here too, even if it's not strictly a Nic Cage movie.
Exists.
Yeah, but I'm like 40 years old. I'm not watching fucking Croods.
I like The Croods. The Croods is good. I haven't seen the sequel, but I enjoyed The Croods well enough. It's fine.
That was a good reference.
Yeah, we all thought it. He just was the one who said it. It's fine.
Well, it makes sense. I'm the one who's like 40 years old.
That's true.
I love that line in that movie, though.
Didn't make the joke.
Okay. And again, we'll probably move some of these around here in a little bit. We're down to the last two here. So almost done with this. This one was a big one for Nicolas Cage, and I can
Paddington
see why.
2.
And this is
sorry.
yeah, Pig. In a year of movies named after just barnyard animals, this was competing up there with Lamb. I think I still liked Lamb more, though. Let's see. We'll go with Lego starting on this one.
Once again, phenomenal film. Was not for me. I appreciate the film. It was a very somber. Tonally, it's very somber. The acting that Nic Cage is doing is very, very low key. I think it is one of his best acted roles, or I should say performed, really. It's about loss and isolation, and about a man who wants his pig, and it's about owning a restaurant is apparently very weird. Who knew?
I knew.
Oh, scary.
Oh.
And I think this is equally, I believe his name is Alex Wolff's film as much as it is Nicolas Cage's. Grief is terrible, and this film really put it on display, and I didn't like it very much. It's something I watched once and never feel like I need to go back to. It was memorable. I think the worst thing a movie can be is forgettable. This film was not forgettable. If a movie's job is to make you feel something, this did not make me feel as much as a lot of other Nicolas Cage films did. I think for me personally, like The Weatherman is an example of that is something I felt very much for, also related to a lot more. Not that you necessarily need to relate to a movie to enjoy it, but this one I just did not get into, and maybe relating to it would have helped. I have listened to AJ, who is in the chat, talk about it, and I appreciate, his feelings, and it's really kind of swung me around to appreciating it more. But looking at the other movies we have here, I would put it between Face Off and Con Air, or maybe Gone in 60 Seconds of Face Off. While I think it's a phenomenal film, it's just to me.
Chris?
I actually completely agree with Lego. Everything she said is exactly my thoughts and feelings on it too. This is one of Nicolas Cage's best performances. If we were doing a ranking strictly on Nicolas Cage performances, this would easily be S tier for me without a shadow of a doubt. The story itself, I like that they decided to take a methodically low-key pace to telling the story. I think that there's certain aspects that when they are revealed to you in the narrative, the way it's done is very well handled. I agree with Lego that I didn't walk away from this movie feeling necessarily what the movie might want you to. I walked away from it going, okay, sure. I was there. I experienced it. Got it. Well-made movie. I think that I will argue that there is a part of me that was a little bit misled, not necessarily by the movie. I don't think the advertising or the marketing or anything is at fault for the movie itself. I think I was just misled in thinking that this was going to end up being like a John Wick action type movie where he's like going after bad guys who took his pig. And I think that's what I walked into it thinking. And I was like, oh, this is a very different movie than that. If you're expecting that movie, you're expecting a completely different movie than what you got. But the movie you are handed is actually very well made, and there are aspects of it that I do really enjoy. I like how it resolves. I like there are certain scenes within the movie that I think are expertly handled and are very, how's the way to put it? They're just very well conveyed emotionally. There's just aspects that are really good, but for me as a whole, it didn't land as much as it does for some other people. For me, I'm agreeing with Lego on that ranking, somewhere in the B-C range for me.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking of like John Wick but I wasn't thinking of how this movie was. I thought this movie was going to be like him and his pig the whole time, and it's just like the adventures of him hanging out with this pig. And then I know that something happens like with the pig, and that he has to go like looking for the pig, but I still wasn't thinking on like the par of like John Wick or anything like that. Yeah, this movie, I felt like this movie was a little slow for me. Not the huge gripping movie, but it's such a, you can kind of tell this is a really good Nicolas Cage like passion project. It's easily like one of his roles that he absolutely loved to play. I think I actually saw him say that in an interview or something like that, that he had probably like some of the most fun making that movie. Just because of how much you could tell how much of his heart was in his character of this role. Really good movie, but yeah, just still kind of not, it didn't stand out entertainment wise for me, but I do appreciate it. And Jake is just losing his effing mind in the chat right now. I know. Sorry, Jake. I would put this probably, as far as quality of the movie goes, I would probably put it high B. I would say I would stick it above National Treasure, just because of how good of a quality movie it is. But yeah, I would say high B, possibly low A. That's where I'd want to stick it. Maxwell?
This was one of the easiest S tiers for me of all of these movies. I think this is his finest work as an actor thus far. I found this to be a gorgeous, rustic, melancholy, poetic examination of grief and isolation, and when all of the pain that the world has, and there is a lot of pain, becomes too much that you have to basically reduce yourself to becoming a hermit and isolate yourself from the world. And whether we would all admit it or not, that is a very relatable feeling for me. I found the writing to be so human and empathetic. The scene where he goes to visit the guy who used to be his prep chef and is now operating this highly lauded restaurant, the dialogue in there, the dynamic between the two of them, I thought was incredible. This movie to me was excellent. It made my top 10 last year. I wish I had even placed it higher, because the more I think about it and rewatch it, the more impactful it gets. I found this to be one of the most affecting movies in recent times, but obviously I am alone on that. And here, the chat seems to be with me. So I don't know where this is going to end up, but this was an easy S for me.
I agree with Jeremy also in the chat. Like, he, at the very least, he should have gotten a nomination for this movie.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
All right, guys, I don't know where I'm going to stick this thing, but I don't know where I'm stick this pig, but I'm of the mind frame just because of, like, we still appreciate that it's a good movie. It's a well-made movie. It just might not be entertaining. I would still probably say, like, let's put this like low A.
Is this one of those where we give a voice to the chat on it as well, and let the chat kind of,
the notion that a movie is
with
only
the
an
vote?
S tier or worthwhile if it's quote unquote entertaining is
Yeah, I was gonna call that was
like,
not the issue I had with
utterly
it.
against my soul and philosophy as a film lover, but whatever.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's like trying to pick or choose like what movies you do say that about. Like, I mean, still, Leaving Las Vegas should be an S tier movie, but it's just a hard movie to watch. Yeah,
that movie isn't necessarily a perfect film. I think Pig is a far better film, better made film, better performed film.
Yeah,
I would put it above Moonstruck, but just realistically, well, I mean, I don't think The Rock should be an S tier, but I am alone in that. But I do think that it is not quite what, to me, Adaptation or Mandy or Spider-Man are. I think those are just better made films, if that's what we're judging them on, personally.
Yeah. Okay, so do we want to entertain the idea of moving The Rock out of S tier and putting Pig in S tier, just for like quality level of it?
That's fair.
Everyone
Everyone else is silent.
well, need to shrink it down first. Let me see. So we got one more movie before we're moving everything around. What is it? Chris next? I'll have y'all go ahead and talk about this one while I'm moving stuff. Keep in mind, no spoilers on this.
Yep.
Since it just came out, but let's go ahead and tackle the last one is Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
This
Chris.
is where things are really hard for me, because this, I know that people can shout all day recency bias, but for me, this was an excellently handled love letter to someone's filmography. I thought the references, the way it was designed and put together, how it was able to touch on other movies without going too ham-fisted and beating you over the face with, get it, he was in these other movies. This movie was just excellently well balanced in terms of being that love letter to Nic Cage, having a lot of fun action in it, having great comedy in it. It was, for me, this is an S tier. This is easily an S tier for me. It was just, I don't know. I don't know if we can sit here and say like this was an S tier because it encapsulates everything else about this list, but that's what it does for me. On top of that, this is one of this again. I believe that this is one of Nicolas Cage's best performances too, and he's basically playing himself. But also, like, highlight Pedro Pascal was a ton of fun in this movie. Also, really did a really great job with that Javi role. For me, this is at the top of the list for me. Not like the very top, but it's in that S tier. It's in that S tier range for me. And like I'll even say, like, if we bump Spider-Man down for it, I'm totally fine with that.
So real quick, Garth did say in Streamlabs, y'all need to listen to Maxwell put Pig in S tier. Come on now, don't make me leave your Patreon. You can stay on our Patreon, Garth. It's up in S tier. AJ Lancaster did the super chat there. What Mandy did for Blow, this did for Sid. Oh, acid. Okay, yeah. I don't know your street terms of drugs out there, but whatever. Anyways, so you're saying S tier, potentially knock out Spider-Man.
Yeah.
This movie was really good. I really enjoyed it. This was probably one of the funnest movies in the theater since the beginning of this year. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, everything Chris was saying, the love letter to Nicolas Cage's career, just so many references, but not in your face. It was just a lot of fun. I could be okay with it being S tier and knocking out Spider-Man. I agree with that. Maxwell?
This movie is a blast. It's a love letter to Nic Cage, and I think why it really works is because independent of all of the references and the meta humor, it works as a really charming, fun buddy comedy with, honestly, Pedro Pascal being every bit as delicious and delightful and fun and in on the gag as Nic Cage. And the two of them have like great chemistry together. Like if they want to make sequels to this, or if the two of them want to go and make other buddy cop movies, sign me up. What I would propose is we move National Treasure to B tier and have 4 at B and put this on A, and that's the list. To me, this is not quite an S tier because it has not had the opportunity to linger on, and I'm not sure I would say it's as good as the 4 we have at S, but it is definitely an A tier.
Okay. Lego?
Yes, I kind of agree with what everyone said. This film is not only a love letter to Nicolas Cage, but to just movie making in general, and does get a little meta in a really just splendid way. And it's not in any way, shape, or form pretentious, because there are a lot of those movies that are about making movies that just get a little, not necessarily cerebral, but it's a bit like, you're full of yourself, dude. Come on, take a step back and have some fun with it, which this movie absolutely did. It is definitely, as everyone else said, essentially a blast. Nick Cage has like chemistry with everyone. I don't think I've ever watched a movie and thought, yeah, they're just not vibing together. But especially Nicolas Cage with Pedro Pascal was so fun, and the story is very much about them. It's kind of adorable, I would say. It's a
bromance.
It's a movie that hinges on Nicolas Cage fans watching it. Like, I think you could get the story without it, but you get so much more if you know a lot of these movies that we have up here, as well as quite a few that are not. It's, a blast. I totally agree with what Maxwell said in putting it in A tier. I don't quite think it's S tier. I know Nicolas Cage just said that, this was the most difficult role for him because he's playing essentially a version of himself that people kind of view. But in terms of like actual performance and quality of film, he's been in a lot of really great films, and this just isn't quite those, but is in homage to those, and that's really lovely. And I'm glad this movie exists. If anyone deserves a movie like this, it is 100% Nic Cage, because there are a lot of weird people, in the film industry. But he seems like a weird person who's a good person, and I think we need to celebrate that.
Yeah.
It was wild to hear that they actually considered making this movie with another actor playing Nic Cage if Nic Cage turned it down.
I mean, he turned it down, I think, 3 times.
Yeah.
He was not for it.
I don't think it would have been anywhere near as good. Not possible.
I mean, there's
No, I
only
don't think
one
so
way.
either, but-
There's only one way that movie works, and it's if you cast Keanu Reeves as Nicolas Cage.
I was going to say Kaufman, clearly, had to be.
That would have been fun.
So yeah, I do. I like the idea of they were to make a sequel to this, and they keep Tiffany Haddish and Ike Barinholtz's characters the same, and every movie is them just recruiting another actor to play themselves in a movie. So that would be a fantastic idea, and that say Keanu Reeves would be the sequel. Get Keanu Reeves playing Keanu Reeves in a movie where he's stuck in some kind of crazy situation with the CIA also. So
well, he's already played himself in a movie to very charming effect, so
That's true.
Yeah,
That's a great movie.
oh, that's
too.
right. The
Always Be My Maybe,
Baby?
which
Always Be My
Yeah.
I
Maybe.
really like that movie, honestly.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's it for the movies that we have to rank.
Look!
First of all,
How-
before
We were strong-armed into having 4 in the top 3.
yeah, you know what? That's what happens when you donate money. It money talks. All right.
Chat was rewarded. Chat was rewarded.
Yeah. So, do we want to move anything around before we actually call it a day on these ranks where they're at, or is everyone kind of good with how it stands? Do we also, at least in S tier, do we want to move those movies around as to what is, according to this ranking, the best, the highest ranked Nicolas Cage movie?
Which is the highest, the left or the right?
So, yeah, Pig right now is in the highest position.
I would maybe move Mandy or Adaptation over.
I agree with that.
Like, move Adaptation to higher or lower?
I would put Mandy highest.
Yeah, Mandy as highest kind of just feels right for Nicolas Cage.
It does. Okay.
I don't know. I would swap Mandy and Pig.
Put Pig after Adaptation.
I don't know how everyone else feels about that one.
That's
I
fine
would at
with
least-
me, yeah.
I would at least put Adaptation over Pig for sure. Obviously, you can't speak to Mandy, so it is where it is.
But everything else is good.
Man, that A tier is like anyone else's S tier, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good looking ranking right there. I know, like I still, there's a part of me that I was like, I want The Rot to still be S tier because that's just like probably my most favorite classic Nic Cage movie out of all these. But yeah, there's some good picks in this. I like how this turned out. So that's our tier ranking on these movies. First off, real quick, I want to bring back Carl to shut down the marquee because this thing's spending a lot of electricity. So let's have Carl fix this real quick.
That didn't work at all.
That didn't work at all. There we go. Let's fix this, and well, issue at the beginning, issue at the end. That's how it works. I do want to go in real quick. I know we've been doing this for quite a while, but I do want to see, were there any movies that were not a part of these 19 that you wanted to talk about and or like quickly give like where you would rank it at?
I feel like Lego and I may agree on the most egregious missing one on the list, so I will let them take it.
Ooh, interesting.
I mean, Color Out of Space for me and Vampire's Kiss are both phenomenal films, and it is devastating they're not on here. Also, not talked about enough, would recommend small film, Nic Cage, Matthew Modine, Birdie. Check it out. It's like The Boy Who Could Fly, but with Vietnam vets.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maxwell, kind of the same.
No, I thought Lego was going to say The Weatherman.
Well, yeah. Oh,
they,
yeah.
They kept mentioning it throughout. The Weatherman to me is one of his best. Bringing Out the Dead when he worked with Scorsese, I feel like maybe should have been on here. And in terms of schlock, Nic Cage that I actually really enjoy, Drive Angry is maybe one I would have thrown on there because that movie is really fun.
Chris coming in with that Left Behind take. Here we go.
No, absolutely not. No, there's when crafting these lists, you gotta keep things in mind where you know that you're putting movies on the list that are gonna end up in the F tier. You know that when you're crafting the list, you got to do that for the fun of it. It's the entertainment value of the show itself. That's why you keep things like Wicker Man on the list, and that's why I would have argued that Knowing would end up on the list as well, because that movie is it. Great special effects.
I believe Roger Ebert gave that movie 4 stars.
Did he really?
I'm pretty sure.
Which movie?
Yikes. Knowing.
Oh.
Special effects were great, but other than that, the story itself, I was like, what? Not a great movie, and that's why that would have ended up on there. Here's the thing: there's so much Nicolas Cage that I don't know why we wouldn't at some point do a Nicolas Cage the other list of movies, the ones we haven't done.
Me personally, I would have liked to have included It Could Happen to You. I thought that was a really good.
That was another one. Yeah, that's a really cute romantic comedy with a great Rosie Perez performance.
I think we actually did strongly consider that at one point.
Mm-hmm. And then also I agree with Color Out of Space. I love that movie. That movie is so perfect, like up my alley. Kind of like Cronenberg body horror type of thing.
I would have said The Thing, but on a family farm.
Yeah, it's H.P. Lovecraft, so it's more in vein of like From Beyond or Reanimator, also H.P. Lovecraft movies, or Necronomicon, that horror movie. But yeah, I love Color Out of Space, also starring Schmoedown competitor Brennan Marr. So. Yeah, absolutely love that movie. Those I would have liked to have included on here as well. But yeah, couldn't do all of them. So
if y'all notice, we're already about to push 3 hours, so there's a reason why you have to limit the list sometimes.
Yeah, I think I saw someone at the very beginning of this whole stream was like, "Man, we're going to be here for like 10 hours ranking movies." Yeah, we can't do that. We got work and stuff tomorrow. I do see Jake Iacovetta was saying no love for Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call. Maybe if it wasn't for the fact that there's the original Bad Lieutenant that I feel like just does that storyline much better with Harvey Keitel as Abel Ferreira, I think, did that movie. It is very dark, very gritty. Definitely not a movie my brother's going to watch. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, I thought his Bad Lieutenant was pretty good, but anyways, I think that's going to do it for tonight's marquee. Let's go around. Where can we find you, and what would you like to, like, out of everything movie related, what would you like to rank? Let's start with Maxwell.
Oh, okay. You can find me on Twitter at CinemaXwell. I have a link tree there that links to everything else. I'm not going to say. Also, Amber Productions, my channel with Amber, and Jake very graciously created this thing called the Amber Challenge. So if you want to do it, he'll donate money to Dog Shelter and we'll match it. That's about it. The FCL, if and when it comes back. What would I like to rank? Oh boy.
Actors, directors, genres.
I understand. I'm thinking.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to say the plethora of topics that you could choose.
You know, Golden Age Hollywood musicals.
Ooh.
Interesting.
I like it.
That'd be good. Lego, where can we find you? What would you like to rank?
I can be found on most social media platforms at Legoland13, which is spelled below right here. And what I like to rank? Oh, I mean, I'm all about that John Carpenter.
Ooh. That would be good. Chris.
Me, I'm found at Chris Adams MLP, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, where I will probably have my personal Nic Cage ranking based on the movies that we did here up very shortly if it's not already public for everyone to see. You can also find me over at twitch.tv/ChrisAdamsMLP, where I'm having lots of fun over there doing all the games and whatnot. We've got a set schedule. We're doing all sorts of stuff over there, so we're going to be doing some fun, different forms of content and different video games and stuff. So come hang out with me over there on Twitch. It's a lot of fun.
What would you like to rank?
Well, I mean, you see what we've got coming up for the rest of the year. I want to rank all of those. And everyone else is going to have to wait. Next month's going to be good.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next month's also. Especially if we can get the guests that we're thinking. That's going to be a fun one also. Yeah, so we're already starting to plan out these marquees for like the rest of the year, kind of hoping to tie them in with like an event or a movie, actor, director, something around those lines. So anyways, you can follow me at Robert Adams MLP, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. I will probably do a Nicolas Cage film ranking on Letterboxd as well. So that sounds like something fun to do tomorrow. So make sure you follow me there. You'll see my thoughts and feelings over everything. What would I want to rank? It's got to be something like horror related. Like I want to do like, yeah, I really enjoyed. That's where the marquee started this past October. Every Saturday we were ranking something horror related, and I had a lot of fun doing that. So maybe like zombie movies, like just all the zombie movies. We probably won't be able to do all the zombie movies, but like that would be a fun one to do. I would be down for that. So that would be something I would like. As for us, the Cinefanatics, me and my brother, you can follow us at CinefanaticsMLP on Twitter and Instagram. And I think that's going to do it. So thank you, Maxwell. Thank you, Lego, for being here tonight. That's going to do it for tonight. And we will see all y'all later. Good night.
See ya.